Life's a ride, so let's make it count. Cherish every moment, that's what it's about. Tune in together, we're building our groove. Every beat, every laugh, we're ready to move. A little laughter, some love, we're soaring high. Every single episode reaching for the sky. News on the airwaves, spreading good vibes. Friends together, watch how our spirits rise. Kick back, unwind, leave the troubles behind. This podcast is gold, a treasure you'll find. With every word, we'll light up your day. Join the conversation, let's laugh all the way. A little laughter, some love, we're soaring high. Every single episode reaching for the sky. News on the airwaves, spreading good vibes. Friends together, watch how our spirits rise. Kick back, unwind, leave your troubles behind. This podcast is gold, a treasure you find.
Hello, and welcome back, everybody. Great to see you today. I hope you're all having a great day. It is, good Lord, it is the 21st already of May, and it is a Wednesday. Happy hump day, folks. Hope you're all having a great one. Thanks for joining me. Sorry, guys, I didn't make it in here last night. I've been having, my allergies have caused my asthma to kick up, and I had a horrible asthma attack. I'm still not doing real great, but trying to do my thing here, hopefully, and work through it. Sorry about that, Jesse. My apologies, buddy. I tried, folks, but it was a bad one yesterday, so it hasn't been easy. But here we are, back to the business, and hopefully we can get through this stuff today. I can get to the doctors, and we can get back to where we should be with this stuff. So, welcome back, everybody. Great to see you all. Thank you for joining us, Tomboy, Tracy, Brandy B, OG, Ricky Tran, Miss Tippy Hadron, Collidor, Paula Fitzhenry, Mittens for Kittens, Lisa Wilson, great to see you. And yes, I plan on doing one soon, I promise. Paula Fitzhenry again, Dagburn, Johnny Gobble's Dead, Floozy Mama, great to see you. Let's see here. Isabel just is ranking, just to see, good to see you here. We got 20 peeps in the house with 12 likes. Come on in, guys. Get yourself a comfortable seat and let's do this. There's Jesse Schul. Yes, definitely, Jesse. We checked that out yesterday. For sure. Come on in, y'all. Grab a seat. Get comfortable if you will, please, and thank you. Great to see you. Thank you for being here. Let's see. All right. Come on in and get comfortable, folks, if you will, please, and thank you. 24 peeps in the house. Come on down, guys. I don't know that we'll run every segment we normally do for the morning show. I got a couple different things to throw out there. Let's see here. Okay. Come on in, guys. Grab a seat. Just waiting a few minutes before we get rolling to make sure everybody's in here. It's going to be in here. Let's see. Well, I'll tell you one thing I would like to see is an update on Sebastian Rogers. That one's really been quiet. At least the realistic side to it. Come on in, everybody, please. Let's see who we got here. Miss Tracy, good to see you. Great to have you here today. 31 peeps in the house. Welcome, everybody. Please make sure to hit the like button. I appreciate it, guys. Let me give you a quick update here. Start with here. I don't know if you guys saw that massive jailbreak that happened in Louisiana, New Orleans. This is an update on that real quick.
Anxiety of a public at risk. I'm Elizabeth. We have the latest on that fast-developing story of the New Orleans jailbreak, the ongoing hunt for the fugitives at large,
Welcome, Captain Jenks. Good to see you, SRB. Dagburn, if you didn't hear me earlier, welcome. Great to see you. Thank you so much for joining.
Ongoing anxiety of a public at risk. I'm Elizabeth Vargas.
Welcome, Fred.
America's News starts right now.
Tonight, a New Orleans jail employee is arrested and accused of shutting off the water so 10 dangerous inmates could escape.
We now know there was intentional, and we know there were failures, and we don't know if all those failures were intentional. So that investigation, the criminal side, is paramount.
6 of those men are still on the run, and with victims, prosecutors, law enforcement, and families looking over their shoulders, how long until they're found? Then News Nation goes live to El Paso, Texas, where a solo Border Patrol agent is single-handedly tracking down criminals deep inside the U.S.
So if that alien has a criminal history, is a wanted fugitive, has any kind of derogatory information, that person potentially becomes a target.
Very good point,
He's
Fred.
already made around 100 arrests. We'll ask him how he does it. And life with a brain implant 1 year later. We're checking in with Neuralink's first recipient more than a year after he let Elon Musk put a chip in his head.
Affidavit. Williams told investigators that one of the inmates, Antoine Massey, threatened to, quote, shank him if he didn't turn off the water. Massey and 5 other convicts are still at large, and they are considered armed and dangerous. The New Orleans chief of police says those inmates are still believed to be within the city limits. The 4 they've already rounded up may have found it too easy to get out of jail, as they wrote on the jail cell wall, but not easy enough, apparently, to leave the city. And in addition to that maintenance worker, 4 other employees at the jail have been suspended. It's unclear whether that includes the lone guard who was monitoring the prisoners and who stepped away to get food as those prisoners broke free. At a city council meeting earlier today, Sheriff Susan Hudson, who oversees the jail, took full responsibility for the escape, but she also blamed the failure on insufficient funding.
It is deeply troubling to me as your sheriff, and I know it is equally troubling to you and the public.
Welcome, Miss Christina. Mark Schumann, good to see you, brother. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you very much. Oh, Alicia, you're fine. I am too. I understand completely, dear. No worries. You do what you got to do. Make sure that he's okay. That's number one. And please keep everybody informed that if he's okay. That's important. So I'll be keeping him in my thoughts for you.
That we are sworn to protect.
Okay.
As your sheriff, I take full accountability for this failure. We have submitted multiple requests over the years for staffing, maintenance, and infrastructure upgrades needed to safely run this jail. Unfortunately, time and deferred investment have caught up with us all.
My first guest tonight is calling on that sheriff to resign. She says blaming funding is for this incident is a
We hear this all the time. When what was his name? Cavalcante, when he escaped, they blamed funding. When that psycho that we chased around for, I don't know, what was it, 2 months? That guy with the bald head, remember him? We chased him down for quite a while. They blame it on funding. Okay? If you have funding issues, here's my opinion. Okay? Exactly, Cap. It's excuses. If you know you have funding issues, you still have to run the facility. So you make arrangements or cut things or change things, whatever you got to do to make it work so that you can keep, things running the right way with, there's ways to do everything, folks, at some point. So that's the problem. You got to make something happen. You got to make things work the best way you can when you have little to work with. So you got to stop doing that. They got to stop blaming this on funding. I get that it's a real thing, folks. I do. Don't get me wrong. I know everything is money, always. Here's the problem. We all deal with it, okay? But everybody makes things work in their lives, businesses, whatever it is, to make it happen. This is a jail. This isn't a grocery store. This isn't a McDonald's, okay? You got to figure this out. So it's just ridiculous. It's absolute ridiculousness, in my opinion. So stop saying things like that and just make it happen. That's all there is to, in my opinion, to do. Absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, they had civilians guarding them at night. Are you serious? Who? What? With no training. That's helpful. That's helpful there. Makes a lot of sense, Well, just watch it, because I know last time it just out of nowhere it just went boom. So that's number one, Alicia, and we understand completely. So yeah, she left to go get food. Right. Of course. I agree. Ridiculous stuff.
reflection, not an explanation. Louisiana State Representatives Amy Adato Freeman joins me now. Representative, you're the first state official to publicly call on the sheriff to step down. Why do you think she needs to resign?
Well, the reason I think she needs to resign is her lack of accountability and her grand failure of leadership. It's embarrassing to me that she has one job, which is to keep.
Oh. If you remember SRB, that guy, I can't think of his name right now. He was like crazy. Okay, really dangerous. And that guy, if you remember what you're saying there were some new people that were hired right before he escaped, and then he just walks right out of the courthouse and was out there for quite a while. So yeah, I can go with what you're saying on that. It makes sense.
The inmates in the jail and keep the rest of us
safe.
I
can't think of his name though.
I know families who've had to move out of the state and into hiding because they're either witnesses or their attorneys who prosecuted some cases against some of these inmates. And it's just horrific to me that your job is to keep the general population safe, and you're not doing it. So Sheriff, I think she should resign.
Yeah, Sheriff.
Yeah, it was the same guy that remember he would dress as a woman too and things like that. I think it was Alabama initially, and then Tennessee. I think he escaped from Tennessee.
And as you just heard in that soundbite, blames a lack of funding for the jail as playing a role in this. She says a third of the security cameras don't work, that the locks on the doors are insufficient. She says she's been asking for more funds to make the jail more secure, but was denied. Is that true?
Well, in my experience, her team has asked me for funding for some programming for domestic violence, and I just added some things to the budget for her office. But no one ever mentioned to me that there were broken cameras or there were doors that didn't function properly. So if she needed that funding, she didn't ask me for it, and we're in the budgeting process, and I sit on House Appropriations.
You said actually she has $14 million in reserve. Why wasn't she spending that on fixing the cameras and the locks?
Exactly. She could use that money and leverage those funds and bond them out. I mean, there's a lot of ways to run a budget. I'm on the budgeting committee. I run my own business. I understand budgeting. Clearly, the sheriff doesn't understand budgeting.
Yeah, and he was headed towards Florida, they said. And then the one police officer was shot and killed because of somebody that he knew or something. It was a weird situation. But again, yeah, same situation.
Or she would have budgeted for infrastructure first. Infrastructure is critical here.
Federal monitors who came in and took a look at this jail last year twice warned of serious problems at the jail under Sheriff Hudson's leadership. They said the jail was understaffed, that high-risk inmates were not segregated and kept separate from the general population. They also found that inmates were often left completely unsupervised in their cells. Why wasn't any of this fixed after not one but two of these reports last year?
I wish I knew the answer to that, because this is why I think she should resign. If you've already been given the instructions on how to fix the jail, you should fix it. You shouldn't be, waiting till tell everybody that you don't have the money. She really should be taking responsibility. I understand today at the city council hearing, I was in Baton Rouge for House action and for voting in the House floor, but I understand she did do some acceptability and apology. But, she can't be blaming others. The buck stops with her. She is the sheriff.
The inmates who escaped exploited some of the very problems that the federal monitors warned about. The feds wrote in the fall of last year that they, quote, strongly urged the sheriff's office to reestablish a high security unit. Yet all the inmates, many of whom were, convicted killers, they were the very definition of high security risk. They were not in a high security unit. They were instead housed on the first floor of the jail, making it very easy for them to escape.
Yes, and I think that's a horrible way to manage it. I mean, I've actually heard interviews with the former sheriff, Marlon Gussman, and they generally, when he was running that building, they did not put those people on the first floor, the high risk. And so, she's mismanaging at every level, and that's why I think she should resign.
Do you think other public officials in your state will follow your lead and ask for her resignation?
I'm not sure, but I do know for a fact that Jason Hughes, who represents part of New Orleans, he represents the New Orleans East area. He came to the House floor with me today. So there's another Orleans Parish representative, Jason Hughes, who has now joined me in calling for her resignation. And he also, like me, is a Democrat who represents New Orleans. And we went to the House floor to tell our colleagues that the two of us feel like she should resign.
And finally, you mentioned in your first answer about the fact that so many of the witnesses who had testified in these escaped inmates' trial proceedings, the prosecutors who had prosecuted these men, they have left the state and gone into hiding. How big a safety issue is this for the public at large in New Orleans and the surrounding areas?
Well, this could be huge. I mean, we have a lot of senior citizens. We've had carjackings against senior citizens. I'm really worried about where these inmates might go. I mean, we now have a $20,000 reward for any information leading to the capture of each inmate, which I hope will help in finding them. But right now, the fear is, we have a lot of older women who go to church daily, and they're not going to their church services because they're afraid something might happen to them with these kind of people running through the street.
Louisiana State Representative
Thank you,
Amy
SRB.
Adado Freeman, thank you so much for joining us. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, let's bring in two men who know a lot about hunting people who don't want to be found. Lenny DePaul is the former chief inspector and commander with the U.S. Marshal Service, and Bobby Chacon is a former special agent with the FBI. Great to have both of you here. Lenny, I want to ask you about this arrest today of this maintenance worker at the jail. How often does this happen, that a jail employee is arrested for helping inmates escape?
Well, I don't think it happens too often. I'm kind of shocked that this guy was even able to get that close to these inmates. I mean, think about that. Hopefully he's jumped on board Team USA and he's telling authorities, everything that was said or what kind of a plan there was. But yeah, I was a little taken back when I heard about it.
Bobby, the maintenance worker, says he was threatened that he would be stabbed, if he didn't help them by turning off the water in cell 6, where they made their escape. The Attorney General today made it clear she didn't believe he was truly in danger, that he had ample opportunity to tell other jail officials and employees that what the inmates were asking him to do.
Yeah, once these guys were out the door and off that loading dock, I mean, I think the danger to him had passed. And so, what prevented him for those 7 or 8 hours from picking up the phone or contacting somebody? But I think Lenny's right. I mean, how on earth do you have a civilian who's not trained as a corrections officer in close proximity to these inmates? I mean, that should never happen. That's another mismanagement of this facility.
That's ridiculous.
Well, and according to authorities, Bobby, he was questioned repeatedly, denied playing any role in this escape before finally coming clean.
Yeah, I mean, it's, look, we saw the woman last year, the year before, the jail employee in the South go away with the murderer. We've had Dannemora, where another female employee inside the prison helped those prisoners escape. It's to me, it's not uncommon. It usually does take some help from the inside and then obviously help from the outside. And I think in this case, the guys who were the ringleaders of this little caper, I think had some help from the outside. And they'll be the hardest to catch.
You're right.
The Attorney General also said that this shutting off the water wasn't a one-time event, that presumably the inmates could not have cut through that pipe and through that wall all in one night. This had to have happened several nights in a row. Do you agree with that?
No doubt. I mean, this was pre-planned. It was well orchestrated. Obviously they got help from the inside, and I'm just hoping now they got 4 under right now and 6 to go. I'm hoping those 4, I mean, they're not facing that much of a penalty or a sentence as these other guys that are still on the run for murder. But I'm hoping they jump on board Team USA as well and kind of give up the candy store. So, keep your fingers crossed with that.
We know also, in addition to the one jail employee who was arrested today, that 4 other jail employees have now been suspended. Do you expect, Lenny, more shoes to drop, that more people on the inside played a role?
Sadly, I do. I mean, I think there was much more, more people involved. Again, it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. But as far as the investigators go, right now they're chasing a ghost. I mean, they've gone dark. They're off the grid. And, hopefully they can put this thing to bed sooner than later.
Bobby, in past jail or prison breaks, the vast majority of these escapees are caught within the first week. We're now 5 days into this escape. 6 of these men are still on the loose. There's now a 7-state alert out for them. Hundreds of law enforcement officers are searching for them. It is very, very difficult to stay on the run or in hiding past a few days.
Well, in past escapes, though, too, Elizabeth, I mean, we've had 1, 2, maybe 3 inmates at most. I don't think we've ever had 10 inmates go at the same time. I mean, not in my recent memory. And so literally, like I said from the beginning, this was 10 manhunts. This is not one manhunt going after one guy or 2 guys. I mean, this is 7 separate individuals, now 6 separate individuals. And you have to think of it as, 6 separate fugitive investigations taking place simultaneously. I don't think they're together. I think they purposely split up to make it harder for authorities to get on them. But I think right now there's 6 separate fugitive investigations going on.
Letty, do you agree with the police chief of New Orleans, who believes that the 6 who are still on the loose, all, by the way, accused or convicted of extremely serious crimes like murder and attempted murder, the police chief thinks that they're still in New Orleans. Do you agree with that?
I mean, I'm not involved with the investigation. He's saying that for a reason. He probably knows something that we don't. But
this is really dangerous, you guys. It really is.
I mean, I've seen it happen a million different ways. They could be out of the country. They could be, laying low somewheres. like I said, they're off the grid. They've gone dark. They're not communicating, but you know, they're putting that puzzle together and connecting the dots. And Elizabeth, I always say you can run, but you can't hide. And when you run, you only go to jail tired.
Yeah, and Lenny, however, as more time passes, these men are probably becoming more desperate and therefore more dangerous.
Desperate people do desperate things, and you know, again, they're sleeping with one eye open. Human instincts turn into animal instincts. They'll make a mistake.
Bobby, do you think in most cases these men go someplace they know where there is support? I mean, think about all the ways we can track people these days. These men can't be, they can't leave electronic, you know, trails behind them. How are they getting money? This is when you start to actually game it out in your head. It is very difficult to do what they're doing and to stay off the grid as long as they have.
Absolutely, Elizabeth. And remember, these guys have already been subjects of a big investigation that landed them in jail. So authorities know a lot about them. They've been interviewed. Their families have been interviewed. There's a case file on each of these guys that is pretty thick. It's a murder case file in some cases. And so the investigating agencies of the original crimes has a lot of information on these guys. They know their family members. They know their contacts. They know their friends. They know their criminal associates. It's all in that original arrest file. So they are starting with a pretty thick file on some of these guys.
All right. Well, let's hope that pays off and pays off soon. I know a lot of people.
And there's another thing on this same news segment that I wanted to show you guys that we're going to be looking into here soon as a one of our shows coming up. But this is interesting that they threw it in with this too. So I'm just going to jump to that from here. And hold on a minute. Let me get to it for you guys real quick. It's pretty interesting. You guys all know that they recently released certain things with the JFK situation. Anybody that follows JFK, it's always been very interesting to me. Welcome, Denise. Good to see you today. And
now you're okay because we're going to get you ready.
I have my thoughts and feelings on this, but this is interesting. This segment that they have on JFK in regards to the CIA and stuff like that. So I'm going to play this too because it's something I wanted to bring up, and it's all wrapped in the same newsreel. So quite interesting.
Hey, our next guest says the CIA is slow walking the release of those remaining JFK files, all of which have been ordered to be released, including 5 key documents. We'll get into.
And this is supposedly why there's an investigation they're trying to run on this, and that the CIA is, like she said, slow walking, releasing this stuff. Why are they doing it? There's something in here, I think, that would they're never going to give, in my opinion, the truth on this, which is why I wanted to run a show on this. It's pretty wild, guys.
So what those 5 documents are next. There was some pretty stunning testimony today from it came more than 62 years after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, casting deep and widening doubt on the Warren Commission's official findings that a single bullet caused the death of President Kennedy. The commission, remember, found that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone when he fired.
And I'm going to tell you guys something too. I know it's crazy. Thank you, SRB. This guy right here reminds me so much of Brian Koberger right now. If you think about it, the way this all went down with Oswald, and then Jack Ruby came out, he shot him before anything else could be stated. It's been stated time and time again that all this guy was a patsy. I'm telling you, this is how Idaho's starting to look too. Truly. It's kind of interesting, the parallel with it.
Shots from the Dallas Book Depository. Well, living witnesses to that dark day in American history testified today at the second hearing of the House Task Force on the Declassification of Federal Secrets. One of those witnesses was a doctor who was there at Parkland Memorial Hospital, where Kennedy was brought after the shooting. Dr. Don Curtis testified today that he saw 3 wounds to Kennedy's throat, head, and back, positing the shot to his throat came from a gunman on a nearby railroad trestle.
And how are your findings different from the government?
The government wanted the
president
to have died from the window, from the bullets fall from the window, because that would have caused Harvey Oswald to have done it. And they went to great lengths to make those 2 bullets do the job. And those 2 bullets did not do the job.
It wasn't just Dr. Curtis who was taking the stand. There were also other witnesses and allegations of tainted medical files, fake x-rays, and lost bullet fragments, even parts of the president's brain gone missing, as well as entire critical files that allegedly vanished, never to be seen again. All this happening even with the Trump administration's release of thousands of previously withheld documents on the JFK assassination. Joining us now is Jefferson Morley. He's a journalist and author and editor of the JFK Facts Substack newsletter. He testified last month at the very first House committee hearing on the JFK assassination files. So you were in the first hearing. I'm sure you watched the second one closely. What did you make of what you heard today?
Well, I thought it was remarkable that you had 5 witnesses from 5 men who had personally experienced the government's attempts to block them from investigating JFK's assassination. And the testimony we heard was quite convincing from multiple witnesses that the CIA did obstruct, and is obstructing the JFK investigation to this day. You know, Representative Luna called attention to the fact that she's asked the CIA and Director Ratcliffe for 5 JFK-related documents that are clearly relevant to the assassination. And the CIA said they would produce none of them in time for this hearing, and that they might not produce them ever. And so, you know, it was remarkable that that was really laid out on the line, and the ball is in the CIA's court. How do they explain the fact that they are withholding these records to this day, even in defiance of Trump's order?
I was just going to say, hasn't the president ordered these documents, all of them released? How can the CIA continue to withhold them?
Well, you know, Representative Luna told me that she had a conversation with the CIA.
For those of you that may not understand nor realize, maybe, in my opinion, from what I've seen, the CIA doesn't have to answer to anybody. I don't care who it is, the president, no one. They don't answer to, but they may be supposed to, but they don't. They never have answered to anybody, ever. No one. And it's amazing to me that there's a organization out there that exists that can be that way. You know, that's pretty wild to me. So the president is just like you or I, as far as they're concerned. Over the years, they've done nothing that anybody's ever ordered them to do. It's a joke. So that's another big part of this, in my opinion. And they just claimed it there, like they may never release it. And who's going to make them? You know what I'm saying? What are you going to do? They can do what they want to do. They'll just keep doing what they do. You know, anybody can try to, I guess, punish them for what they're not doing, for lack of better terms. But, you know, that's it. They do their own thing. And in my opinion, they probably run the government, folks. That's my opinion. So it'll never change, Busy. That's just the way it is. So that's another interesting thing about this whole thing.
Official last week, and she said that they promised her that they would produce 4 of the 5 records within week. No date specified, and no guarantee that she would get all of them. So that alone is a non-cooperative attitude towards the.
And once again, I gotta wonder if it's like the Idaho situation. Is it? And I'm only using that so that it's a way for people to get it. Did these documents that they're talking about, these 5 documents, do they even exist? Were they destroyed at one point on purpose to keep the cover up buried, for the future reference from way back when? Did they say, you know what, we're going to have to get rid of this stuff because if somebody ever finds this, it's going to put it out there. So, I agree, Cap. I'm not saying that, it's kind of like a, how can I explain it? You got to give one and take the other. If that's what makes sense to you guys. That's what I'm saying. So, yeah. But again, like I said, were documents destroyed? These documents that they keep saying they're going to get to them, do they even exist anymore, you guys? That's my curiosity, truly.
President's order. And it's really disturbing because it's very consistent with what these other witnesses said. Dr. Curtis talked about being treated in a coercive, abusive way by Warren Commission lawyer Arlen Specter.
He actually said he was, quote, terrorized by the Warren Commission. I was struck by his choice of that word.
Yeah, I mean, there was a real effort to intimidate people out of coming forward. Secret Service agent Abraham Bolden testified remotely at 90 years old to talk about how he had been railroaded and put in jail because he raised questions about Kennedy, the security procedures around Kennedy. So really powerful testimony of people who saw this firsthand. And now the ball's in the court of the Trump administration and the CIA. Are they going to produce these records or not?
We heard a
John Ratcliffe, I believe, is who it is now. I think as of January, when Trump came into office, I believe it's John Ratcliffe now.
Lot today about somebody named George Ioannidis. He was an undercover. He was an undercover officer who ran a secret operation on Lee Harvey Oswald 3 months before the assassination. The committee's demanding records on him, but for years, this is one of the records the CIA has refused to hand over.
This is the key to the whole story, and the fact that they're not turning over this file. This is the smoking gun, Elizabeth.
Why is it the key? Why do you think it's the key?
Because George Ioannidis, he was the chief of covert action at the CIA's Miami station in 1963. His paid agent generated propaganda about Oswald before and after the assassination. None of this was disclosed to the Warren Commission. None of it was disclosed to the House Select Committee on Assassinations in 1978. Even 30 years.
And I'll be honest with you guys, not to interrupt him, but it was always interesting to me, too, that Jack Ruby is the one that took out Oswald, being that he was who he worked for. He was a hitman for the mob. So that was the relationship correlation there between the government and the mafia was quite interesting to me. I thought, very interesting. Abraham Bolden was a Secret Service agent under JFK that complained about the lack of... Oh, big time. Yes. There's all that. We'll get into that too when I do this show on this, which will be coming soon because I've been banking on this for a while. So
years later, Judge Tunheim, the head of the Assassination Records Review Board in the 1990s, said the CIA deliberately misled, that's a quote, deliberately misled us about Ioannidis' actions in 1963. This is the ball game, Elizabeth. This is the one thing that they are determined to keep off the public record. And frankly, they're in sign of slow motion defiance of Trump's. They're not defying it. They're just saying
they're slow walking it.
Well, don't forget that Jack Kennedy, JFK's father, he was involved with some very how can I explain? Interesting people, for lack of better terms. I'll say it that way, and was for a long time, and the whole family was. And again, yes, Cap's right that Ruby hated the Kennedys. There's reasons for it. So
yeah, they're
slow walking it forever.
Forever.
We're familiar with the procedure, having dealt with various governments over my entire career. Yeah, I know what that looks like. Jefferson Morley, we'll have you back because I'm sure this story will continue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
All right.
All right, so that's what's going on with the JFK stuff now recently. That's quite interesting to me. Like I said, I plan on running a show on it here fairly soon and bringing it all. It's probably going to take me a couple days, little series on it, because it's a very interesting piece of history, guys, that I just have always been interested in it, always. So on we go. Again, thank you guys for joining us today. I appreciate you very much for being here. And let's see what we got here. Cap says, yeah, Jack and Bobby won the election for their help in Illinois and they backstabbed them. Yes. Well, and I'll tell you right now that the elections, from what I saw, in my opinion, had a whole lot to do with who Jack Sr., their father, was involved with and knew So just saying. We are all in Discord, Miss Christina, and you can join us there too if you'd like to. It's a lot of fun in there, so please get a hold of our Miss Brandy in here. She'll get you in there. No worries.
Or next week, then that's fine. You can go to Luke, but if not, then you have to step. It depends on when they want you to do the that comes first.
All right, hold on here. Let's see.
You can't change people, can you? But I feel like I should have a certain level of friendship when I met you. You know, I should have a certain set of respect for being there. You would say that.
Okay.
If he doesn't talk to you because of that, then he must know you're.
I do not see anything new on Jack and Lily, unfortunately. It's very sad. Now, one of you guys did send me an email, and I've been following some of what this guy's been talking about here. Started to get on my nerves a little bit, though, with the last one. So hold on here a minute. This was put out just 18 hours ago about, hold on here. 1 second. Oh, this is a good point, and that's why I brought this one up. And we covered this case when this happened. Dylan Ayler. I've never probably said it right, but he went missing almost the same way in the same area, guys. And the deception detective covered this last night, actually. So bear with me as we have to listen to him again. I know some of you guys are irritated with him at this point as well, but this one, it points to a good, it makes a good point. I'll say that much. Welcome, Zach Halley. Good to see you today. Thank you for joining us.
And get that time back. Anything.
But soon, suspicion. Desperate search begins.
I'd do anything to get that time back. Anything.
But soon, suspicion turns to the grieving family.
There were pieces in her story that I'd be a little concerned about.
Did you have anything to do with the disappearance?
Here is Avery Haynes.
Tonight, a 1-hour special into the disappearance in Nova Scotia, how the mystery has fractured a family, divided a community, and raised some serious questions about the way the case was investigated.
That intro could have been about missing Nova Scotian children Lily and Jack Sullivan, whose case I've been analyzing.
Welcome, Amor. Good to see you today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. All of you. Appreciate you very much. Amor says, good day. I hope everyone constantly loves themselves and affirms self-love to themselves every day. Most people like to see people insecure and small. The minute you vocalize the love, yep. That's why I say it every day before I leave, to make sure you love yourselves and love each other and don't change anything about who you are, because you guys are the beautiful people, because that's a fact, Amor. Great stuff.
Analyzing since they disappeared not too long ago, but it actually isn't. It's about an eerily similar Nova Scotian case. So in today's video, let's watch this documentary together to see what lessons we can learn to improve our analysis of Lily and Jack. I'm Deception Detective, an attorney trained in statement analysis. This channel exposes lies and manipulation, so if that's your thing, hit subscribe. For exclusives, early access, and other cool perks, consider becoming a channel member. Link in description. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you're at least casually familiar with the disappearance of Lily and Jack Sullivan. but you might not be familiar with the case we're about to compare it to, Dylan Ayler. And if that's the case, don't worry because I'm not familiar with it either. The only reason I know the name is because so many of my subscribers have commented just how eerily similar the two cases are. I haven't even watched past the teaser of the documentary we're going to break down in this video because I wanted to compare and contrast the two cases in real time with all of you. So without further ado, let's listen.
A child vanishes and a desperate search begins.
I'd do anything to get that time back. Anything.
We didn't expect people to reach out like they have been.
But soon, suspicion turns to the grieving family.
It felt as if like everybody just, turned on me.
There were pieces in her story that I'd be a little concerned about.
Did you have anything to do with the disappearance of your son?
Here is Avery Haynes.
Welcome to W5. If you've ever lost sight of your child, even for just a fraction of a second, you know the terror that sets in. Now imagine living with that feeling for a year and a half. Tonight, a 1-hour special into the disappearance of a 3-year-old boy in Truro, Nova Scotia. How the mystery has fractured a family, divided a community, and raised some serious questions about the way the case was investigated.
Before we get too deep into this, yes, I did cut out some context and some words from that intro for the intro to my video, just to illustrate that the broad strokes of these two cases are virtually the same. We have children who are roughly the same age going missing from roughly the same part of Canada on roughly the exact same day of year. Lily and Jack were reported missing on May 2nd, 2025. Dylan was reported missing on May 6th, 2020. The disappearances were immediately followed up with massive search efforts that yielded very little evidence about where the kid might be. I think in Dylan's case, they actually found some small boots. And not long after the failed search, the general public started to suspect the parents. At least that's what I gather. And I know that's what's going on in the Lily and Jack case. Except in the Lily and Jack case, I think that suspicion is warranted because I've actually analyzed the case myself. I've not analyzed this one. I don't know if the public was right or wrong yet.
It's the wide-awake nightmare of losing a child.
He said, Dylan's missing. And I said, what?
And the whole world fell apart right there. I hit the ground, started crying.
It's the anguish of not knowing.
We don't know if he was taken. We don't know if he drowned. We don't know if he's alive. We're stuck in limbo.
Ashley and Jason have been in that limbo since May 6th, 2020.
Tonight, still no sign of Dylan. The heartbreaking search for a missing 3-year-old boy.
How's everybody making out?
Pretty good, not bad.
The day of this search marks 16 excruciating months since 3-year-old Dylan Ayler vanished.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Gone almost without a trace in Truro, Nova Scotia.
It feels like day one over and over and over. I just want him to come home.
Official search and rescue missions have long been abandoned.
There we go.
But since he's vanished, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, Dylan's dad, Jason, and a small group of volunteers have been desperately searching and hoping.
The only time I feel at peace is when I'm searching for him. I can breathe.
Every time we've analyzed an innocent parent, what they always seem to have in common is if there's no evidence that their kid is dead, they don't give up searching. It doesn't matter what the odds are, what the statistics say, what the experts say, they typically don't give up hope unless there's concrete proof that there's literally no hope left. So when I see Dylan's dad continuing to search for him over a year later, remember this documentary was made 3 years ago, it makes me think that he's probably innocent. And that distinction really comes into focus when you compare that to the stepfather of Lily and Jack Sullivan, who after only 24 or 48 hours said he'd already searched everywhere. That revealed an unusually low amount of hope that they would be found. Dylan's dad also used one particular word that I like to hear in missing person cases. He didn't say he wants to bring Dylan hope. He said he wants Dylan to come home. In other words, he might not be picturing Dylan as a dead body that has to be brought home, he might still be holding out hope against hope that Dylan is
Welcome,
still able
Thunder.
to come home on his own.
Dylan's mother, Ashley, is living a life suspended in time.
When I walk through this house, I see signs of Dylan everywhere. His job chart, his photographs, his drawings.
It keeps him present here. It keeps him with us so that we can feel him. Sorry, that was a very emotional question. It means everything to us to have his stuff here and be surrounded by him. It's just here waiting for him to come home.
This one was another rough one, guys. When we covered this, it's very hard. All of these are when it comes to these kids. This is why I think they affect a lot of us in here so much. This is very sad. I felt so bad. Still feel so bad for the parents. It's horrible, guys. And what he's doing is he's comparing because this happened in the same place, same area. It's crazy.
Can I ask about these presents in the corner?
So those are all Dylan's Christmas presents. Birthday presents. And my presents, because I won't open a present again until he's found. Dylan's still missing. There's no God. I've prayed so many times. There's just nothing.
Ashley and Jason have been praying for Dylan to come home.
Yeah, unfortunately, Christina, certain things that are stated, YouTube doesn't allow to be put out. So I'm sorry for that. We don't remove them, but they do, depending on what you're saying. It's weird. They don't do it often, but certain words or things that they don't like, they'll remove it. So I'm sorry that that's happening to you, dear.
Home since that day in May of 2020, when he was dropped off at his grandmother's home for a visit.
I gave him a hug and a kiss. I told him to be good. I loved him.
Dylan was at his grandmother's residence on Queen Street playing outside. His grandmother became briefly distracted and turned around for a moment. And when she turned back, Dylan was no longer in the yard.
Now, see, that's weird. The heart thing shouldn't disappear. Huh. That's strange.
So many what ifs, woulda, shoulda, couldas, and that'll probably be with me the rest of my life.
Dorothy Parsons is Ashley's mother, Dylan's grandma.
On that last day when you were with Dylan, what was he like?
He was a very happy little boy that day. Very happy.
The one rule of statement analysis that everyone seems to know is that you never talk about a missing person in the past tense. It's even a card in my deception deck, my 52 favorite rules for spotting lies and manipulation. And although it may have sounded like Dylan's mom was talking about him in past tense when she said, I loved him, or his grandma was talking about him in past tense when she said he was a happy little boy, they were both relaying things in the past. In other words, Dylan's mom was saying in full context, I told him I loved him. And his grandma was saying he was a happy little boy that day, which is very different than saying, I loved him or he was a happy little boy, because both of those are speaking about Dylan as a person in the past tense and may reveal hidden knowledge or at the very least a hidden belief that he's dead. Coincidentally, this is a rule that the stepfather of Lily and Jack Sullivan violated not even 72 hours after they'd been reported missing.
Lily loves girly things, but she also loved doing everything with Jack, Boggs. They're like best friends, not just brother and sister.
So does that mean that he killed them or he knows for a fact that they're dead? Of course not. But once again, it's another sign that he doesn't hold out hope that they're still alive the way that innocent parents of missing children typically do.
And I'll never forget that.
Okay, but he's also been told by RCMP that the kids are probably deceased. In turn, that would explain why Daniel Martell is probably speaking that or thinking that way after being told by law enforcement. So that is ridiculous what he just said there, that one.
Little smile. I'd do anything to get that time back. Anything.
This is the last place where Dylan was seen.
Can you walk me through what happened on the day Dylan disappeared?
I decided to bring him outside to play. So we come over to here, and I just kind of get the dog, and I got her chain. And then after I got her hooked up, I turned around, and he's nowhere.
The police immediately focused on a brook behind her neighbor's backyard. Search and rescue crews battled high waters and raging currents before making a discovery that evening. Dylan's rubber boots.
One was found in the brook, in Leper Brook, probably closer to the property that the family owns. And then one was found further down the brook.
When the chief came in, he had a picture of boots on his phone. And when I seen them, I just...
Welcome, Noni. Thank you for joining us today, dear. It's great to see you. I hope you're doing well.
I knew that they were his, and that was it. I started bawling and knew that they were Dylan's boots.
If I had a YouTube channel back in 2020 and I was analyzing this case, I'd probably bet that the parents are innocent if they were speaking back then the way they are now. But I would definitely be picking apart the words of the grandmother, who was A, the last person to see him alive, and B, seemed to have switched between past and present tense when she was telling that story about the final time she saw Dylan alive, which doesn't necessarily mean that she did anything evil to him. It could simply be that she was neglectful and he wandered off while she shouldn't have been doing what she was doing. Or she's simply embarrassed that she let him out of her sight, and that led to her grandson disappearing forever. The same logic is why I'm so skeptical of Lily and Jack's mother, Malia Brooks Murray, because she not only switched between past and present tense when she was talking about the last time she saw, or rather, even more bizarrely, the last time she didn't hear them, as well as many other red flags. I'll link my analysis over on the end screen, as well as my Lily and Jack Sullivan playlist. We're about a fifth of the way through this documentary, so if you want me to continue analyzing it, let me know by liking, commenting, and sharing. Until next time, stay true.
Okay, so that's really, there's not a lot out yet still. Thank you, Noni. I'm okay. I appreciate you asking, and it's great to see you. I hope you've been doing well. We missed you here for sure. All right, guys. So that's pretty much all there is, guys. And again, I believe that we're not getting much about these two because I think that law enforcement here, RCMP, is involved in an investigation into something that I believe they know, and they just have to get things right before they can act on it. That's my opinion. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I don't know if that's true. We shall see. But personally, that's my opinion on it. So I also wanted to give you guys an update on another case I follow and have covered. This was a pretty important case to me. Quite a few of us, actually. Anybody that's familiar with Kyron Horman, if you are familiar with the case, it's a pretty sad situation. He disappeared from school. It's believed, a lot of people believe that his stepmother, Terry, was involved in it. Very sad situation. Again, another cold case. And it just bugs me, as do most of these kids' cases. Well, all of them, I should say. Some of them, I think I have feelings as to what goes on, but this one is another crazy one, okay? And I love Pat Brown. She's a profiler for a retired profiler for the FBI, and she really hits points that I think are great. And she did an update. We haven't seen any updates on Kyron's case in a while, so she just put this out yesterday. Not even full yesterday, but anyway. I wanted to share this with you guys for those of you that were familiar with Kyron's case. I know there's a few of you in here on my team, especially that were, and review this with you guys. I think she did a great job here.
Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown. And I have been asked by a lot of people in the last month whether I'm going to be doing an update on the Kyron Horman case. He's been missing for now 15 years. The 15th anniversary is coming up on June 4th. And there's been a flurry about the case because there's so many people invested in what happened to Kyron Horman. And most people think that the stepmom is Terry Horman. Now she is married now to someone else, so she's no longer Terry Horman, but we'll just stay with that for now. Terry, I would say 95% of people who have been following this case believe she is guilty of doing something to her stepson. And one of the people that absolutely believes that is Kyron's biological mother, Desiree Young, and she absolutely 100% believes that Terry did something to her son. And so she is very excited about the possible new happenings as the 15th anniversary arrives. So I'm going to be talking about the update, the involvement of the FBI, and I'm going to give my opinion on the update. Now, you might ask, what does that mean? It means I'm not going to give an analysis of the case here. I'm going to give some points, but I'm not going to do a full analysis. If you would like the full analysis,
He was, Noni. Again, they all are. And it's just really sad how these things happen. And 15 years, guys, 15 years. That's nothing. And I'm honestly, I have always suspected Terry myself. I just can't let that go. So who knows? I could be wrong. But he does. He reminds me of a younger Sebastian. I agree with you on that, Cap. So
go watch this. The link is below. I did this 3 years ago. Whatever happened to Kyron Horman? And I had a lot of people writing me with this new update that the FBI is getting involved in. And they're like, oh, Pat, you said that she didn't do it. And you think it's a strange abduction. And
yeah, it's hard to believe it's been that long too, guys. It doesn't seem like it has been. This one seems like it's like 5 years ago. But this little dude, awesome little guy, was running a science project at school and stuff like that, and just poof. And that's why I have always questioned Terry, because she was there and then he was gone. Something's crazy with it.
And now there's, they're gonna come after her now. And I'm like, what video did you watch that I did? And it's very interesting because when people get very emotional, they don't hear everything you say. So if you go watch my 2-hour video, and I do say stick with it,
Mark.
again, because I go through all kinds of issues with the case, with the family, with the evidence, how you analyze the psychological state of people, how you statement analysis. I go through all of this, and I keep emotions out of it so that we're looking at what the police are dealing with. And as I point out in the video, I do not have access to the police files. So this is an educational channel that tries to help people understand things rather than I can solve the case, because I'm not inside.
Denise, she took him to school early for like a science show they had, and it was over, and then he was seen and then gone. And she was still there, leaving maybe. But then, yeah. So she took him to school early. They did the whole science fair thing, and then I think he was getting ready to go to class is what was next. And poof. So yeah, that's how that went down.
Working with the police. So there may be things I don't know, but with what I know that's out in the public, that isn't based on gossip, here is what I'm seeing at this point in time. So 3 years ago, I saw what I saw and I gave my opinion, and I went back and rewatched the 2 hours myself, which I rarely do that with my own videos. But I had to do it because there were people saying, oh, I saw your video and I think you may be wrong or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I can be wrong. I went back and watched my video. I'm like, they missed the point of what I was making in this video. And so I watched the entire thing just to make sure I understood what I had said. And I stand by it to this day. And I'll give you a little bit of that here, but if you want to really understand things, please go and look at that. One of the things I said in that video was that there is a great difference between thinking somebody did it and being able to prove somebody did it. And everybody out here in the world, on YouTube, on Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're at, TikTok, you can have all the opinions you want, including myself. But the police have to prove it. In other words, they can't even arrest somebody unless they have probable cause. They have enough evidence to do so. And it certainly isn't going to go to court with a district attorney who says, we're not going to win this. And she is very upset with the district attorney at the time. She says he doesn't have any guts and he won't take it to court. She wants a new district attorney. But the question I have is she correct about that? And there's an interesting thing about a lot of missing children's cases. If you think of the other famous missing children's cases, right now, let's say.
That's a great point, Noni. The day that Kyron went missing was filled with things that were out of the ordinary, like the tales of so many others whose children disappeared seemingly without a trace. Agreed. Great point, Noni. Very good point.
Sebastian Rogers and Summer Wells, both in Tennessee. They're both missing. Nothing has happened with those cases. You can go to Haley Cummings, baby Lisa, still missing. Nobody's been charged in those cases. You can go to the most famous missing child case of all, the Madeleine McCann case, which I have a book. I'll link it below. I have an audio book with all my analysis of the evidence. And nobody's been charged. What do all these cases have in common with missing children? That clearly the police do not have enough evidence to arrest anybody in these cases. And that has meaning. And I think this is the exact problem we have with the Kyron Horman case. You can think all you want about Terry Horman and her behaviors, her personality. Like I do believe she shows a personality disorder, a narcissism for sure, perhaps worse. But is there enough evidence to charge her with doing something to her stepson? That's the problem with the case. I'm going to go into the 4 basic issues with this in a minute, but I also want to say, before I go into that, a month ago there was a video that came out on YouTube, and it is this one, the disappearance of Kyron Horman, what really happened, and it's very it's beautiful in the sense that Desiree, it's an interview with Desiree. The whole video is an interview with Desiree. It's beautifully done. Credit the filmmaker here, did a wonderful job. And she's so heartfelt about everything she says. I mean, she lost her son. She knows he's unlikely to be alive. She believes she did something to her, and yet she has no closure. She even says at one point, now, when I see kids in the store, I keep thinking, could it be Kyron? Even though she believes she did something to him and he's not alive, she still looks at children and as she's walking through a store and says, maybe it's him, maybe it's him. And it's heartbreaking. And
we appreciate that, Noni. We do very much, and we have missed you greatly. It's great to see you here, and we hope to see you more often as we can. And understood with when you change things like this up, as far as schooling and homeschooling, it makes things hard. It really does. So we understand completely. It's great to have you here when you can be here, though.
Yeah, you feel for her for the whole way through. But I will say there.
Yeah. So the friend of Terry that was granted immunity may not hold if this is now a federal case. That's what my thoughts were too, SRB. And I think that's the way I understood it, I should say. And I think she knows something too, definitely, in my opinion. So just saying.
There is a small problem with when I watched it. And the small problem is the entire video is her opinion of what happened. She says, this is stuff that she presents things as evidence, which I do not believe are necessarily evidence. And there are a couple things that she says, which I don't think they have been proven. One is that I think three or four people saw her leaving the school with Kyron, and as far as I know, there's actually no proof that that's true. And if it were true, then the police would have more to hang their hat on.
And see what Pat just said there is that was something I had found when I did research on this too, that there was 3 to 4 different people that gave testimony that they swore that they saw Terry leaving the school that day, not too long after the science fair, with Kyron. But there was no way to vet or verify or clarify that, which is one again why they had no way to do anything to Terry in that aspect. Is it true? I don't know. Is it was it people just saying that because that does happen, folks? Was it people just saying that because they wanted to believe that Terry was guilty? What do you think? You know what I mean? I could see that being a thing because it happens all the time. But again, there's things that are made up all the time. Again, referencing back to the case that we've been following so closely, the Idaho 4 case. There has been so many things made up pointing at Brian because everybody wants to believe that he's guilty. This is the truth. Okay, just like with the Delphi case. Things that were made up and put out via social media on the news because everybody wants to believe that Richard Allen's guilty. Could it be? Yes. Or could it be true? Yes. We don't know. There's no way to prove that. That's the problem. That's why Terry's never been arrested. Okay? Because there's no way, like she said, to put proof on top of that to make that something that's real. And yeah, Dee Dee was Terry's friend, and I do believe that Dee Dee has knowledge of what happened that day. This is me. I personally feel that Terry was guilty of something as well as her friend. Both of them. That's my opinion. But there's nothing to prove. There's nothing there to be able to prove that. That's the problem. So here we are. And you are more than welcome, Noni. You know that. You've been here for a long time. You're a very important part of this community, this family, and we love you and appreciate you very much. So the door is always open. People come and go. Life happens. Things are, family and life are always number one here. So at that point, you're always welcome. And no matter what you got to go through, we'll be here when you come back. So please know that. And please know that we do. We appreciate you very much. And you are, like I said, a very important part of this community and this family. So once again, thank you, Lucy. Thank you for joining us. Wait, I know that. That avatar. Thank you for joining us, Lucy. I was going to say, I knew it was, I was going to say Heather, but I didn't know what. Hello, Heather. Thank you for being here. You're silly.
But I don't think that's actually been proven. She also says that she tried to hire 3 hitmen to kill her husband, Kane, and that hasn't been proven either. So the problem a lot of people have is they jump on these things, they see this as proof, and it's not necessarily proof. Well, it isn't proof unless there's actual evidence that these things are true and the police have designated that they're true. So those are problems when you're watching something from one person's point of view, especially somebody who is highly emotionally involved. And she said some other things about Terry, which I don't know if they're true or not. The simple fact, I just do not know. So just because somebody believes that this person is guilty, also,
they gave Dee Dee, Terry's friend, immunity if she were to come forth and give them information about, Terry and her involvement and the possible involvement in this. And like what SRB was saying is if this rolls into a federal case, is that going to hold or no? And I think it would. I think that would be dropped. Excuse me, in my opinion.
I have to wonder whether everything they say is exactly accurate. There was a book written, and I point that out.
No, she didn't at all. Not that we know of. Not that I've ever seen published or put out anywhere. She didn't. Yeah, that's true. She did lead them to the dumped burner phones, but that was it. So what does that say to you guys? You know what I mean? Remember that. That's a thing in my opinion. So
in my video analysis of the case, there was a book written, a 500-page book, and when I read it, I'm like, there's so many things in here which I just can't believe are necessarily true, because everything came from Desiree's point of view. And once your child has disappeared and you think you know who did it, you're not going to have a very good opinion of them. So you're going to find things that you're going to.
I didn't see anything after that at all, SRB, truly. And I don't know if it's because they didn't put it out or if there was nothing else. I don't know.
Jump on everything you can to prove their guilt. That's just the way it works. So I don't falter for it, but I also say as a profiler, I can't necessarily buy it. All right, I want to stop right here just to read a little thing in case you don't know what I'm talking about. Most people are coming to this video do, but I want to point out something here. I'll give a paragraph on the case. Kyron Richard Horman, this is from Wikipedia, is an American boy who disappeared from Skyline Elementary School in Portland, Oregon on June 4th, 2010, after attending a science fair. This is fact. Local and state police, along with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which is interesting right there, because they're getting involved now, but they're also actually involved then, and this is unusual. Most local police departments do not want the FBI anywhere near them. This is just a fact. They don't like the FBI getting involved in their cases, and so there's always that. They don't usually bring them in unless, and this is the unless they're getting so much harassment from the media that they want to offload the case to some extent on somebody else, so that at least the somebody else can say, we've worked with them, and then if neither one of us can solve it or arrest anybody, then you can't blame the local police department. So sometimes they do that so that they don't,
Right. That's and SRB is responding to Fizzy saying, I think once she had the immunity, she gave up very little, but now that she's finding out that it may be in the Fed's hands, that she could lose that safety net. And I wonder if that's the case, if she's going to possibly come forward with something else or all of it at that point. Worried, because if you get federal charges, yeah, you're in trouble. And that's a good point. Why do you need a burner phone if you ain't doing nothing wrong? Yeah, that's a good point, Cap.
they can protect themselves against the onslaught of hatred from the public. They conducted an exhaustive search and launched a criminal investigation, but have not uncovered any significant information regarding the child's whereabouts. Harmon's disappearance sparked the largest criminal investigation in Oregon history. To this day, his whereabouts remain unknown. Absolutely true. Now, what is happening right now? It says here, a renewed collaboration, because it's renewed. So the FBI was uniquely involved in this missing child case early on, and are now getting re-involved again. Renewed collaboration and commitment in Kyron Horman case ahead of the 15th anniversary of disappearance. This is out of msco.us. I don't even know what that is. All right. As the 15th anniversary of Kyron Horman's disappearance approaches, the county sheriff's office, MCSO, I was trying not to say the name of the city because I can't pronounce it, Multnomah, county sheriff's office, and law enforcement partners are reaffirming their commitment to finding Kyron and pursuing justice.
Bingo, Heather.
They've taken a significant effort to modernize and review the case through a renewed collaborative approach. So they're getting together to digitize or reorganize the entire case. They're scanning all the documents. And the reason that's useful is because when I've worked on cases where things aren't scanned, or that sometimes the police don't want to release that to an outsider like myself, who is an independent criminal profiler, I would fly to location and I would spend a week with the police department, and they just bring me boxes of stuff, of all the evidence, and interviews and everything. And I would sit in an interview room for.
I agree, SRB. She said, I don't believe he was abducted by anyone but her. I agree too. I still am not 100% about the motive. Okay. I kind of have an idea as far as a motive, but I'm still a little bit shaky with it.
10, 12 hours a day for a week, and I would go through all the stuff. And but it's a lot easier if that stuff is scanned and somebody can just send you the info, send you a CD. That's what they do anymore these days, but they can send it to you. And therefore, if they want 4 different people to look at it, they can just send it to 4 different people or 10 different people. So much easier methodology. So they are digitizing, reorganizing the entire case. They are scanning and documenting thousands of pages of reports, photos, and evidence. When the case is digitized, the file will be re-examined. And of course, when they say when the case is digitized, how long that's going to take, we do not know. The file will be re-examined by the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Behavioral Science Unit, the BAU. The BIU is a unit within the National Center for the Analysis of Violent Crime, which uses behavioral analysis to assist in criminal investigations by analyzing statements, narratives, and evidence, performing psychological and behavioral analysis, and offering investigative recommendations based on patterns from similar historic and current cases nationwide. Now, if anybody knows me, I'm not fond of the profiling methodology of the FBI. I'm not. I find a lot of times they, how can I say this? They're not focused on evidence. The evidence should be forensic, it's physical, it's circumstantial, and it's behavioral, but all of it's evidence. But if you're going by statistics in the past, like this kind of person does this kind of thing, and 75% are, and then that really bothers me. If you're going to make up stuff that isn't based on evidence, I have concerns. And I've seen that done on a lot of FBI profiles, and I don't like it. In my opinion, if you're going to do a profile, every time you say something in that profile, you should back it up with evidence. You should say, I am saying this because of this evidence. Now, it doesn't mean you're always right, but at least you're telling the detectives where you're getting your analysis from, that is coming from this specific evidence. And then when you finish reading the entire profile, based on all the conclusions you have, based on all the evidence, then you say, here's the best investigative avenues I think you have. Doesn't mean you've solved the case. It doesn't mean you know absolutely who did it, but these are the best investigative avenues. Now you might say, based on all the totality of the evidence, this one is like 95% of where you want to waste your time. And over here, maybe just 5%, but you should always not get tunnel vision. Just don't get tunnel vision, because you never know. Freaky things happen. But I'm not overly fond of FBI methodology. But they're very popular and the public loves them. And as soon as at this point, if the police department says we're going to send everything over to the behavioral science unit and those profiles are going to get on it, they can relieve themselves of a lot of criticism, shall we say, and the 15th anniversary. So they're going to review all of this stuff, and then they're going to get a fresh and comprehensive review of the entire investigation. All right. Now, let me go to my opinion. Nothing is going to change in this case unless they can get physical evidence or confession. That's the way it works. Same thing with the McCann case. People say, why has nothing been done about the McCanns? Because they don't have enough physical evidence. They never found Madam McCann's body, and they don't have a confession. And they're not going to go forth with a prosecution based on good stuff, but not good enough stuff. Now, there are some cases where circumstantial evidence will win the day. So the circumstantial evidence is so overwhelming that you can pretty much be sure that person did it, and you can get it. The jury's going to find them guilty, regardless of the fact you didn't have the body, for example. There has to be enough, and it has to be strong. In this case, it's not strong. Here are the 4 big problems with the issue of Terry Horman at the time. Okay, there's no question that she went to the school, took her stepson there. They showed up together. People saw them together. The science fair thing was going on. She took him to his classroom early, I think about 8 o'clock-ish. And it's been a while since I've looked at that part of the case as far as the time frame goes. And they went to his room. And he left, I think, his coat and his backpack there. And then they went around on the science, with the science projects, all the science fair. And she took pictures of him in front of his science project. And that actually happened. Then she states that she took him, they went to the stairs, they went up the stairs, and then she saw him walk down the hall. And the last thing, she waved at him, and the last thing she saw was the back of his head as he approached the door of his room. That's her claim. Nobody knows that part is true. That's her claim. The last anybody knows is true is that they were at the science fair together where she was taking pictures. That's absolute fact. After that, nobody knows what happened. She claims she took him up there and saw him go to the room, but nobody ever saw him in the room. He was marked absent because he never showed up there. So that's a problem. Now, it's also a problem that Desiree claims that 4 people saw her with him outside of the school. I don't have any proof of that. That's true. As far as I know, that is not true. As far as I know, nobody saw Kyron outside of the school with her or with her. In other words, there's a couple possibilities. Either they could have walked out together and nobody saw them, and then they got in her truck and then they took off and then she did something to him. Because clearly if he left the school with her, then she is definitely guilty of whatever happened after that. There's no question. But unless you can prove that the two of them left the school together and got in her truck, you can't say that she had him with her. And there's no evidence that that is true. I don't see anybody else saying they saw Kyron leave the school with anybody else, or even alone, because one of the possibilities is that she said bye-bye. She comes out, she's going to her truck, and he goes, oh my God, I want to tell stepmom something. And he runs out of the school after her, and her truck takes off, and then somebody else grabs Kyron. That's the strange abduction theory. Now the school had no camera, so thank you very much, school. And
that's something else I could never deal with either, is that the school had no cameras. That blows my mind. How's that possible with all those kids going to that school that there's not one camera there? That's ridiculous.
Terrible, terrible security. So there's no way to prove whether he left the school with her, left the school with somebody else, or left the school on his own and got abducted. There's no way to know. So with first, that's what I call the black hole. There's a black hole there. We just don't know what happened to him at the school as far as him disappearing from the school. That's a huge problem. The next problem is, number two, is she's in the truck. It's not her truck. It's her husband's truck. But anyway, she used it to bring them a science project, which was large. Anyway, it's a white truck, which unfortunately is what half the trucks out there are, because of all.
Well, my school had cameras when I was in high school, SRB, and that was years and years ago. They had some form of cameras. I know they did. But I don't know. That's just crazy to me.
All the businesses have a lot of white trucks, so it's an easy truck to get, just disappear into the other white trucks. So not a very noticeable vehicle. Her other vehicle was red. Yeah, that's not a good car to be running around doing bad things with, because people say, I remember that red car. It's not a popular color. I have one of those. I don't commit crimes. So she got the white truck. She's got her daughter with her, and she goes from store to store to store, parking in the parking lots. And the problem here is that a lot of people say, well, she parked the truck farther away from the store. Well, then she could have parked closer. Well, as I pointed out in my analysis video, well, when I'm driving my little red Mazda Miata, I park as close as I can get because it's a tiny little car, and I go whoop, into the space. When I'm driving one of my daughter's vehicles to go like pick up my granddaughter, because my daughter doesn't like me to have my granddaughter in a little Mazda convertible. She's like, well, that'll get, hit a deer, everybody's dead. And so take the truck, So I take the truck or a larger car. And when I have the truck, because it's so big compared to my little car, I just park further out in the parking lot because it's just easier. It's an empty area. There's no other cars. Just pull into a space, walk a few more feet. No big deal. And it makes it easier. So she could have done that simply because she just ease of parking the vehicle. But some people point out she could have done that because Kyron was in the vehicle, either alive or dead. And that is also possible. The problem is nobody in all the places she was at reported seeing Kyron in the vehicle. So that's black hole number two. There's no evidence that he was in her white truck. I'm talking about evidence. I'm not talking about theories. I'm talking about evidence. All right, let's go to three. The next thing is she had him in there. She killed him some point. Then she had to dump him someplace. Well, she was wandering around with her truck. She claims it was, she drove because the baby wasn't falling asleep, and people do that. I've done that. So she's saying she has a reasonable excuse for why she's driving about. So her daughter falls asleep so she can then do other stuff, maybe go to the gym or whatever. I forgot the whole order of things, but she's driving about. But black hole number three is there's no evidence of where, if she killed him, of where she dumped him. There's no sighting of the truck near a location or a woman running into a woods. There's no evidence of her dumping him.
I agree.
That's
Yes, sir.
black hole number three. Black hole number 4, his body's never been found. So there's no evidence, no evidence, no evidence, no evidence. And regardless of what you think of her, and if you go through my if you go watch my analysis, you'll see all the issues I have with her personality and her behaviors and all of that. You'll see it in there, but you also see that evidence is the thing that the police need to be able to actually arrest her. And then there's a possibility, as she points out, well, just because, you know, in other words, people don't like her. And she was the last person to be seen with him. But doesn't prove she killed him. There is the possibility that somehow he was spirited out of that school, or he ran out of that school and somebody grabbed him. And it is a stranger abduction and likely murder. In which case, one of the problems when you're trying to find and she's worked every year with the search teams trying to find his body essentially somewhere in all of that area of that. There's a lot of area which he could be dumped in or buried in. But if he were buried on somebody's property and you don't know who that guy is, and you're not going to go, you can't go to somebody's property and says, hi, Bill, I just want to dig up your property just in case you can't do that. So you have to have an actual suspect, a person of interest, to be able to go and dig up the property. Well, the only person of interest in this case is Terry Horman. Why is that? Because she had an alibi, husband had an alibi, her husband had an alibi. There's nobody available in the family who could have done this except for Terry if it was connected to the family. It would be her if it was somebody from the family. And of course, she was the last person seen with him. So she is a 100% person of interest. And this unknown person who could have grabbed Kyron, they don't know who that person is. So they can say an unknown person, or an unsub, as the FBI has called that person in the past, an unsub, a person that you have no clue who they are, but you think they may be involved. But it's not an exact person of interest. So if you don't have an exact person of interest, that he could be buried in somebody's backyard or underneath the new deck, patio, and he's never going to be found. And he's never going to be found unless a person sells their house and moves out, and the new person moves in, and they're like, I always hated that patio. I'm going to dig it up. I'm going to make a swimming pool. And they dig it up and they find a body under there. Then you got a case, because you'll know who was the last person that was in the house, who probably buried him there. Now, the other problem is, you say, well, if it wasn't a stranger abduction and she actually did do something with his body, what did she do with it? And why hasn't it been found? Well, anytime you have a large area, bodies are hard to find. He's a little boy, not huge, but anyway, even if he were bigger, if you leave a body out in the elements long enough, animals do get to the body, other things, and the body can be under the ground, it can be in a ravine, it can be in water, it can be in whatever place, but always think of it this way. It's in this place. I'm sitting here right now and I can actually say Kyron would be about, okay, so a little off the screen here, about this big. That's it. Among square footage as outrageous, square miles of land. So a lot of times when you have search teams go out, they don't find the body. And the time they're most likely to find the body, or the body is found, is by a jogger, a dog walker, a hiker, a fisherman, somebody who just happens to be in that area and trips over the body and says, what the, oh my God. And then they call the police. That is the way, if you actually look into history, that is the way most missing people's bodies are found. It's rarely by the search team, although God bless them for all their efforts, but it's just such a huge area that's why sometimes a decade goes by or 2 decades goes by until somebody trips over the body, or just, they're fishing one day and they pull up a bone, So she could be just lucky. She could have dumped him someplace and just gotten lucky. I mean, I don't think she could have done such a great job of getting rid of him that I don't think she's a mastermind criminal. So I think it would be more a case of luck, which happens in a lot of cases. So What will come of this, the 15th anniversary and the FBI's re-involvement and the behavioral science unit? I hope, for the sake of Desiree and everybody who cares about what happened to Kyron Horman, I hope that the behavioral science unit, because, you know, I'll say this, I'm not fond of their methodologies, but there could be somebody in there, a profiler who I will find out I adore. You know, just because you're part of an organization doesn't mean you can use other methodologies outside of the organization's general methodologies. Let me just say that. So I'm hoping that person is in there. But even if that person is there, even if they come to certain conclusions, does that mean they can prove she did it or somebody else did it without the physical evidence? Now, it's possible they'll look over everything and they'll come up with enough. There's a little, she alludes to certain physical evidence, which I just don't know really truly exists. So, yeah. Sorry, I guess I'm in the throat. Hold on. But I hope there's something more that I don't know. That could, if it's really reanalyzed, might bring a conclusion to this case. But it has to be enough for an actual thing called an arrest. Just because you think somebody did it doesn't mean you can prove it. Doesn't mean that they did do it. But in the long run, you have to be able to prove it. So I can have an opinion. I mean, I certainly wrote the book on the McCanns, and I have an opinion that the totality of the evidence supports that the McCanns were involved, as opposed to, I see no evidence of an abduction based on the totality of the evidence. And that is my analysis, and that is my opinion. But I'm not in a court of law. I'm not in a place to be able to arrest them or convict them. So it's just truly an opinion. Maybe it's an educated opinion from a professional, but still it's an opinion. And I have an opinion here too, but I can't.
No, Christina, she's just a profiler. Used to be. I believe she used to work for the FBI. And she just profiles cases, so on and so forth.
Do much with it. And we have to rely on law enforcement to hopefully come up with something. But I will just, in defense of law enforcement, if they don't have the evidence, they cannot arrest. And that's just the way it is. And people will then say, oh, it's a conspiracy, and if they don't care about it, it's a police officer who's involved in all kinds of nonsense. Most of the time it's simply that they can't prove it. And, detectives work their little butts off, and they care a lot, especially when it comes down to children. It breaks their hearts. And I have a daughter who's been 20 years. She's on 20 years for the police force, the local police force. She's been a detective for, I don't know how many years now. She's been a detective in domestic abuse. She's been in sex abuse, child abuse, and in homicide. And the toll it takes on detectives, you would not believe. And the amount of effort they put out to try to solve cases is phenomenal. So have a heart for them. Not every detective is great at his job. I mean, that's just the way things are. Detectives, I pointed this out over and over, they don't get proper training. This is absolutely true. And I keep hoping to do more with my channel for training of detectives, because you go from a street, you are working on the street, you're a street cop, and one day you're elevated to detective. You don't go to detective school. You can occasionally go to a seminar, but a lot of times you have to do that yourself. I hope that detectives start watching my channel. Just watch my channel, sitting in your cruiser, watch my channel, listen to it, whatever. Because when you're sipping your coffee and you're bored, do that. Why? Because it'll help you learn analysis skills. And so not every detective is the best detective, but there's some out there who are amazing. And I strongly believe that all of them have their hearts in trying to find a missing child. It's not like they don't care, because they think that could be my child. It breaks their heart. So when they don't end up arresting anybody, it's not because they don't care. It's because they can't do it because they don't have the evidence. And don't you believe they would want that evidence? Absolutely. So anyway, those are my thoughts on this case. So far, let's see what happens. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe, and check out my playlist for all the other cases. And please do if you're really interested, go back and watch my other video where I do analyze the whole case, because I think you'll find it really, really interesting. Anyway, thank you for being here, and let's see what happens. Bye.
All right, thank you, Pat. Like I said, guys, we haven't seen or heard nothing in that one in a while, long while. So I would really like to get some form of an update on that one, and maybe hope that it would be good news, hopefully, of some sort. Excuse me, I don't know, but it's been too long with nothing, and it's really bugging me a lot. So it really is. Anyway, thank you guys for reviewing that with me. Give me a minute here. Here we go. All right, next up, guys, we're going to look at something in Idaho, of course. Fox News put this out. This is becoming a big deal. Finally. And it's crazy that it took this long. It's something everybody been talking about for a long time. And then some. But it is what it is. We'll take it for what it is.
The judge overseeing the Idaho college murders trial, giving the defense one last chance to try to convince him to allow them to present an alternate perpetrator theory to the jury.
Receive the defense's proffer regarding alternate perpetrators. That will be sealed. Provide me with whatever actual evidence you have that supports those elements.
I don't have any, Tomboy, but I know you're right.
Allegations, rather than just allegations.
Let's bring in Anjanette Levy. She is a host of the Law and Crime Network. When you hear the judge, Anjanette, say, bring me the evidence, it sounds like the proffer didn't include a lot of actual evidence. It just sort of maybe put forward some theories or something.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like that, John, and thanks so much for having me. The judge has been pretty clear that they're going to have to meet certain guidelines for him to allow this alternate perpetrator theory in. The defense has already indicated that they're going to go with a theory that there were 2 killers and 2 weapons involved. They have an expert who's going to testify for them that there were 2 weapons involved in these crimes because the injuries to the 4 victims in the case were different and caused possibly by 2 different weapons. So it will be interesting to see what they ultimately present. As you heard, the judge said these things are under seal right now, so we don't know who they're offering up as these alternate suspects, but there is case law in Idaho that says they have to meet a certain standard in order to present this evidence to the jury.
But the key to the case, the thing that really led to the arrest of Brian Kohberger, is DNA that was found on the knife sheath inside the home, and the authorities say it's Brian Kohberger's DNA. So even if there was somebody else involved, it would seem that the case against Kohberger is pretty strong.
It does seem like a very strong piece of evidence, and we don't know how exactly the defense is going to attack that. It is Kohberger's DNA on the knife sheath, but they've suggested that it could have been transferred onto that knife sheath by somebody else. And they've always said in these pretrial hearings, how did that knife sheath get there? So it will be interesting to see how the defense explains Brian Kohberger's DNA being on the inner snap of that knife sheath. I actually have one of those sheaths here in my office. I could show it to you in just a second, but it's on the inner snap of that knife sheath. They didn't test the top of the knife sheath button. They tested the inner snap. And that is where the DNA was found. Plus, they have those Amazon records, John, that show that Brian Kohberger or at least somebody in his family. They're suggesting possibly
Yeah,
somebody
I
in his
know,
family
Tomboy.
could have
Thank you,
purchased
dear.
the knife sheath, bought that knife sheath and sharpener and knife in March of 2022, months and months before the homicides.
Meantime, there is this huge controversy roiling the case about evidence that NBC Dateline was able to put on air. They have actual footage of what they say is Koberger's car circling the crime scene on the night of the killings and then racing away from the killings. There are some other very incriminating pieces of evidence, and all of that stuff was supposed to be under seal. Here's some of it. Koberger's AT&T phone records, the content of his cell phone, photos and information associated with his Amazon account. And again, at the top there, the surveillance footage of what police say was his car. The judge is not happy about this.
No, the judge is absolutely furious, and he didn't show a lot of emotion during that hearing the other day, but he's furious, and he wants a special prosecutor appointed to investigate the source or the source of this leak, or he wants the leaker or leakers. It could be more than one person leaking this information, because this is information that only law enforcement or the prosecutors would have been privy to. They had actual information from Brian Koberger's phone. They had photographs, selfies of him, his Google searches. They had his Amazon records, some of which we knew about from pretrial motions. But really, they had insider information. And they even said that in an interview that Keith Morrison did with a reporter. They said that, you know, they had the goods and they felt like they had a lot of the evidence that would be presented at trial. So they got it from an inside source. And the judge said in the order that he presented to the prosecution, ordering them to preserve all communications and records, that he suspected it was likely a member of the prosecution team, a former member of the prosecution team, a member of law enforcement, or maybe a former member of law enforcement.
Yeah.
So he suspects this leak came from the state side of things, not the defense.
Whoever released that evidence probably thought they were helping buttress the case against Brian Koberger, but could result in suppression of some of that evidence, some of it being thrown out of the case. We'll see.
That is very possible, and it could. The judge said it could make it much harder to seat a jury, and he may have to end up sequestering the jury.
All right, Anjanette Levy, it's good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
All right, so there was that one that came out, and then hang on here. One second here. Yeah, that's the only one I'm gonna, because I'm not gonna look into the more of a smear campaign, but I do have something else here I wanted to present to you guys today. Yeah, good point there, Denise. Hold on, guys. 1 second here. Hold on, guys. I'm getting someone to load up. All right, I got a couple quick coverage cold cases out of my state here, guys, that I wanted to show you guys. I'm going to be getting back into the cold case, copying the cold case stuff here soon. But I still want to put out some of these. I thought these were interesting. Like I said, this is in Ohio here, so let's check these out. This one out at least real quick here. Welcome, Scott. Good to see you, bro. And welcome, Aurora. Great to have you here as well. Miss Denise. Good to see you all.
Lancaster was last seen on April 3rd, 2013 in Wheelersburg, Ohio. She had planned to run errands and then return to her parents' home that night, but Lancaster was last seen on April 3rd, 2013 in Wheelersburg, Ohio. She had planned to run errands and then return to her parents' home that night, but she never arrived. Megan has never been heard from again. 2 days later, her car, a white 1999 Mercedes-Benz, was discovered abandoned at a Rally's fast food restaurant in Portsmouth, Ohio. Her wallet was found on the passenger seat.
Welcome,
but
Raquel.
there was no sign of her. Megan struggled with addiction before her disappearance and sometimes turned to prostitution to support her drug habit. Despite her struggles, she was a devoted mother to her 7-year-old son, who was in the care of his grandmother at the time. Megan's family emphasized that she adored her son and maintained daily contact with her loved ones prior to vanishing, making her disappearance especially alarming. Authorities believe Megan's case may be connected to other missing and deceased women in the area, including Jamie Bowen, Holly Logan, Wanda Lemons, and Charlotte Trago, as well as the suspicious deaths of Tamika Lynch and Tiffany Sayer. These women shared commonalities, such as struggles with drug addiction, connections to specific people, and involvement in high-risk lifestyles. This series of disappearances and deaths has sparked speculation about the possibility of a serial killer operating in the region, particularly in and around Portsmouth, Ohio. However, law enforcement has not named any suspects, and the cases remain unsolved. Megan's family continues to search for answers, holding on to hope for justice and closure in her case. The Portsmouth Police Department is actively investigating Megan Lancaster's disappearance, but years later, her fate remains a mystery. Hashtag investigating agency Portsmouth Police Department phone 740-354-1600 hashtag source information. Namas, Charlie Project, Ohio Attorney General's Office.
We're going to cover this one too.
Nylo Latimore was last seen in Cincinnati, Ohio on December 4th, 2020, alongside his mother, Nytisha Latimore, who lived with him on Melrose Avenue in the Walnut Hills area. On December 12th, Nytisha's body was found inside a body bag near the Purple People Bridge on the Ohio River. She had been stabbed to death. A blood-stained Paw Patrol blanket belonging to Nylo was found nearby, and his stroller was later recovered from the river. Authorities believe Nytisha was killed on December 5th by her boyfriend, Deshaun Brown, after neighbors reported hearing the sounds of a violent struggle in her apartment. Investigators suspect Brown threw Nylo into the Ohio River, still alive, on December 6th, 5 days before he disposed of Nytisha's body. Brown, who had purchased a body bag from eBay, took an Uber to the river to dump her remains, claiming the bag contained his clothes because he was moving out. He was arrested and charged with murder, felonious assault, gross abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence, with additional charges filed in February 2021 for Nylo's murder. Prosecutors believe Brown killed Nylo and Nitisha out of revenge, blaming her for miscarrying his child. He is currently awaiting trial, scheduled for January 2025, where the death penalty is being sought due to the heinous nature of the crimes. Despite extensive searches, Nylo's body has never been found, though foul play is presumed.
Got another one here.
On February 11th, 1976, in Kettering, Ohio, Lorie Lloyd was babysitting with a friend at her home, taking care of her 2-year-old nephew while her mother stopped by to drop off a pizza for them. Lorie thanked her mom and showed no signs of anything unusual. This would be the last time her mother saw her daughter. Later that night, after midnight, Lorie's mother returned to the house and noticed Lorie was missing. Lorie's friend and her nephew were still asleep. And when the friend woke up, she told Lorie's mother that Lorie had gone to a nearby convenience store about 3 blocks away to buy cigarettes. However, the store employee confirmed that Lorie never arrived at the store that night. Desperate, Lorie's mother searched the area in her car, but found no trace of her daughter. A knapsack that had been in the house also vanished at the same time, though Lorie's purse, Bible, and private phone book remained behind. One of Lorie's friends later claimed that Lorie had planned to meet a boy that night who supposedly promised to take her to California to live with her father. But this boy has never been identified, and there's no evidence that he even existed. Though Lorie had a history of running away from home, she always called her family to reassure them that she was okay, which made her sudden disappearance all the more baffling. Since she vanished, she hasn't contacted anyone, and she left behind her personal belongings, including clothing and a small amount of money in her savings account. Her mother later shared that Lorie had seemed happy and was doing well in her life. She worked as a teacher's aide, participated in tumbling and track, and had no apparent issues. For years after Lorie went missing, her family traveled to California. While watching a documentary about the drug angel dust, they noticed a young woman in the film who resembled Lorie. They reached out to the filmmakers, Dave Bell Associates, and the producers tried to investigate, but the girl in the film had never signed a release and was never identified. It remains unclear whether or not this woman was Lorie. A documentary about Lorie's disappearance, Whatever Happened to Lorie Jean Lloyd, was released in 1981, but it yielded no new leads. In 2004, a mistaken report surfaced claiming Lorie had been found, but it turned out to be false. Lorie's case remains unsolved, with no trace of her or any solid evidence to explain what happened to her that night.
All right, I think we got one more.
Christopher Lurch was last seen in Columbus, Ohio on August 14, 1982, along with his wife, Peggy. The couple disappeared after being last seen at the apartment of William Dean Wickline Jr., a friend with whom they had been drinking heavily and using cocaine. In 1985, Wickline was convicted of their murders, receiving a life sentence for Christopher's death and a death sentence for Peggy's. Wickline's girlfriend, Teresa Kemp, testified that an argument broke out between Wickline and Christopher over a $6,000 drug debt. She stated that Wickline slit Christopher's throat and then strangled Peggy, who had been sleeping. According to Kemp, Wickline dismembered their bodies and disposed of the remains in trash bins throughout the city. Authorities found blood evidence in Wickline's bathtub and human tissue on a folding saw, but no body parts were.
Trigger warning. Trigger warning. Content may include sensitive or violent content, not suitable for all viewers. Feel free to step out if needed.
Ever recovered. Wickline, who was also indicted for an unrelated 1979 murder, but not tried due to his death row status, maintained his innocence in the Lurch case. He was executed in 2004. Despite his conviction, Christopher and Peggy's remains have never been found.
Sorry,
39-year-old Dave Box of Loveland, Ohio, worked as a pipe fitter at the sprawling 1,050-acre feed materials production center in the small rural community of Fernald, Ohio. On the surface, Fernald seemed like any other quiet agricultural area located about 20 miles northwest of Cincinnati. The facility, however, was anything but ordinary, run by a private company, National Lead of Ohio. The site operated in deep secrecy. Few knew that NLO and its Fernald plant were, in reality, owned by the Department of Energy. Between 1953 and 1989, this hidden facility was one of the few in the United States tasked with processing high-grade uranium for
Welcome, Marty.
nuclear weapons. For years, the Fernald plant was the community's main employer. Many workers who joined the operation were given little to no information about the true nature of their jobs or the health risks involved. Former employee Harry Easterling recalled that when he was first hired, he was assured the plant handled only low-level radiation. Management insisted there was nothing to worry about and nothing that would bother him. They instructed him to keep his work secret, reassuring him that everything would be fine. As the years passed, however, it became clear that conditions inside the facility were far from fine. In the fall of 1984, a scandal erupted that shook the Fernald community and exposed the grim truth about the plant's operations. A massive accident released radioactive smoke into the air. Investigations later revealed that, over the facility's 3 decades of operation, more than 200 tons of radioactive dust particles had been discharged into the atmosphere and local water systems. Fernald residents came to realize that their community, hidden behind promises and platitudes, had essentially become the 3rd largest nuclear waste dump in the country. The outrage only grew when it was revealed that the government officials overseeing the site had been well aware of these dangers. They had not only failed to fix the problems, but also actively downplayed the risks to both employees and residents. One worker brought in to assess the plant's safety described the operations as terribly inadequate, estimating that half of the facility's maintenance tasks were being dangerously mishandled. Despite raising these concerns, he found that many of the plant's managers seemed indifferent to the dangers. The community's trust in the government was shattered. Investigative reporter D.C. Cole, who has spent years researching the facility, believes the environmental disaster was just one piece of a larger tragedy. According to Cole, if anyone were to survey the residents of Fernald, they would find a profound sense of betrayal. Few in the community trusted the government anymore. This broader scandal unfolded just months after a separate, deeply disturbing incident, the disappearance of Dave Box. On June 18, 1984, Dave vanished while on the job at the Fernald facility. Though his body was never officially recovered, the discovery of some of his personal belongings and other clues led to the grim presumption that he was dead and that he had met a horrifying end. Company officials and law enforcement ruled out foul play, but Dave's family and friends believed otherwise. They were certain he had been murdered, and they were determined to uncover the truth about what happened that night. Dave's story began far from Fernald, in Staten Island, New York, where he was born in 1944. When he was still a child, his family relocated to Ohio. In 1966, Dave married Caroline Nogler, and together they built a family, welcoming 2 sons, Tony and Matt, and a daughter, Casey. Although Dave and Caroline divorced in 1979, he remained deeply devoted to her and their children. Those who knew him described him as kind, hardworking, and reliable. In 1981, he joined NLO as a pipe fitter in the facility's maintenance department. He quickly earned the respect of his co-workers, who appreciated his steady, thoughtful approach to his work. Dave's daughter, Casey, later described him as a loving father who would do anything for his family. Dave worked the graveyard shift from midnight to 8:30 a.m. His routine was a familiar one. On the night of June 18, 1984, he began his shift like he always did. At 11 p.m., he met his rideshare partner, Harry Easterling, in the parking lot of a local White Castle restaurant. Harry drove the two of them to the facility, a trip that had become almost ritualistic for the pair. Harry recalled that the ride was unremarkable. Dave talked about a recent vacation with his kids and mentioned that he had bought a new lunchbox for work. To Harry, everything about that night seemed normal. At the facility, Dave and Harry changed into their work clothes, stored their belongings, and stepped through the sanitizing showers to begin their shift. Around midnight, they reported to the maintenance room to receive their assignments. On this particular night, Dave was tasked with inspecting a pump in Plant 8, a routine job. His supervisor, Charlie Schaus, instructed him to check with another co-worker about the specific pump in question. As Harry recalled, it all seemed like business as usual. Dave opened his toolbox, leaving the lock and keys resting on top of it, and headed off to Plant 8. Throughout the night, Harry and Dave worked separately. Around 4 a.m., a witness spotted Dave sitting in a parked pickup truck with Schaus. The witness later reported that the two men appeared to be having a serious discussion. Despite the sweltering summer humidity, the windows of the truck were rolled up, which struck the witness as odd. Shortly after this encounter, Dave and Harry took their scheduled lunch break. They clocked back in at 4:46 a.m., then split up to continue their assignments. About 15 minutes later, at 5 a.m., the same witness who had seen Dave in the truck spotted him again, this time walking toward Plant 4, not Plant 8, where he was supposed to be working. The witness offered to help Dave with his tasks, but Dave declined, replying, "Oh, okay, no problem." That would be the last confirmed sighting of Dave Box. Around the same time, Schaus reportedly ran into Dave in Plant 4, where the two spoke for about 10 minutes before parting ways. Whatever they discussed remains a mystery. As the morning wore on, Harry began to grow uneasy. By 7 a.m., a safety meeting was held in a conference room in Plant 4. Dave was noticeably absent. After the meeting ended, Harry went back to the maintenance room and put his tools away. There, he found Dave's toolbox still open with the lock and keys lying untouched on top. Assuming Dave had stayed to work overtime, Harry made a few phone calls in an attempt to locate him. When that proved fruitless, Harry left a note for Dave, explaining that he had to leave but would be back later. Hours later, when Harry returned to the plant, Dave was still nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, at 7:30 a.m., a furnace operator in Plant 6 made a chilling discovery. He noticed that the furnace's molten salt and lid were coated in a strange black, sticky residue. A sickly odor permeated the area. When he looked closer, the operator thought he saw something even more unsettling, something that kind of looked like a leg. He alerted his supervisor, who inexplicably dismissed his concerns and ordered him to continue working. By 11 p.m. that night, Harry arrived at White Castle for his usual rendezvous with Dave. Dave's car was already parked outside, but something didn't feel right. The car's hood and fender were ice cold, indicating it hadn't been driven recently. Worried, Harry reported Dave missing when he arrived at the facility later that night. A security guard pried open Dave's locker and found his clothes from the previous shift still inside. A search of the facility was launched, but no trace of Dave was found. As the hours passed, company officials contacted the police. The disappearance of Dave Box would soon cast a dark shadow over the already troubled Fenald facility. It was soon discovered that Dave had never clocked out that morning. Casey says that she and the family were told on Tuesday night that he was missing. On Wednesday, Carline tried to contact NLO in the facility to find out more information. They told her that they could not give her any information because they did not know anything. But inside the facility, an investigation was confirming the worst. It was learned that at 5:10 a.m. on the morning of Dave's disappearance, the temperature in the furnace in Plant 6, which was kept at a constant 1,350 degrees, had momentarily dipped 28 degrees twice, suggesting that something foreign had been dumped into it. An engineer noted that the time printed on the temperature readouts was about 10 minutes fast, meaning that the temperature drop occurred closer to 5 a.m. A worker had also found what appeared to be a piece of bone on the lip of the furnace. The Hamilton County Sheriff's Department was called in, and at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, the furnace was shut down. The investigators had to wait 3 days for the molten liquid inside the furnace to cool. Then, employees sifted through the waste material, searching for some kind of evidence. At one point, they found a set of keys. According to retired Chief Deputy Sheriff Victor Corelli, the keys belonged to Dave's car and 3 of his padlocks. Another key was believed to belong to his house. However, it was bent and in bad shape, so they were unable to prove that. The conclusion was inescapable. Dave was almost certainly dead, but the news left Harry dumbfounded. He claims that Dave's keys were still in his toolbox at 7:30 a.m., more than 2 hours after the gauge in Plant 6 registered the temperature drop. Harry says that when he went into the maintenance room that morning, Dave's keys were in the toolbox. When he left to go home, they were still in the box. When he came back that night, they were, again, still in the box. After Harry noticed the keys that night, one of the supervisors closed the toolbox, put the padlock on it, and took the keys out of the lock. After that point, Harry does not know what happened to the keys. In addition to the keys, investigators uncovered a steel toe and eyelet from a boot, part of what they thought was an eyeglass frame, fragments of what they believed was Dave's walkie-talkie, an alligator clip from a name tag, and a piece of stainless steel wire that was looped together in 3 oddly connected circles. Also recovered were several pieces of human bone. The official police investigation was unable to determine conclusively how Dave died. However, suicide was a distinct possibility. Dave had a history of psychological problems and had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. He also suffered from hallucinations. It has been noted that people with schizophrenia have higher rates of suicide than those without it. During his marriage, he also had problems with alcohol. Around the time of his divorce, he apparently tried to take his own life. Schaus also told police that Dave seemed despondent that night. Casey is certain that Dave did not commit suicide. She says there was no reason for him to do that. He was in perfect health, had recently remodeled his home, had purchased groceries and cigarettes for the week, was planning a vacation with her and Matt for the following summer to Florida, and had paid all of his bills for the month. She had visited him the weekend before his death, and everything seemed normal. He also had not had a breakdown or a suicide attempt since the divorce. His psychiatrist also believed he was not suicidal. Former employee David Day says that based on everything he knows about Dave, his death, and the facility, he believes that Dave was probably lowered into the furnace. He believes that Dave was murdered. He cannot think of any other way it could have happened. He does not believe it could have been suicide or an accident. An accident seems highly unlikely since the furnace is about 4 feet tall and the opening is on top. Dave would have had to climb a ladder and drop through a hole that was just 9 inches by 22 inches. The furnace is also not in the part of the facility where Dave would normally be working. Suicide also seems unlikely. Doctors and scientists noted that Dave most likely would have died before he had the chance to maneuver his entire body through the hole. On the night Dave died, he had been working in Plant 8. According to Cole, Plant 8 had released 4 times more radioactive contaminants into the environment than any other plant at the facility. Cole thinks that Dave was killed because he knew something. He thinks that Dave knew something about Plant 8, about the release of the radioactive contaminants and the threat to public health and the environment. He says it is possible that Dave was a whistleblower or was going to be one. According to his family and co-workers, Dave was a stickler for the rules. He had previously complained to Schaus about another employee sleeping on the job. Harry says that Dave knew about and often warned him about dangerous spots in the plants. His family believes he was going to be a whistleblower regarding the lax safety practices at the facility. Cole believes that Dave was either shot or knocked unconscious. His killer then took his body to Plant 6 and lowered him into the furnace using the looped wire. Cole is not sure if Dave was alive when he was put into the furnace. He hopes that Dave was not conscious. He cannot imagine a more horrible death than that. He believes Dave's death was covered up by N, LO, and the government. Dave's family believes he was killed, cut in half, and then each half was placed in the furnace. They believe that this explains the 2 separate temperature drops. Deputy Sheriff Corelli says that they never developed any information indicating foul play in Dave's case. He says they had that in the back of their minds, but no one ever gave them any indication or reason to believe that it occurred. Detective Pete Alderucci believes that Dave ran up the ladder and either jumped or dove into the small opening on the furnace. He says he does not believe homicide is possible in Dave's case. He claims that if anyone else tried to put Dave's body in the furnace, they would have burned to death. Harry believes there are people who know what happened to Dave. However, he is not sure if these people would ever come forward or tell anyone about it. He believes they may fear for their lives. Casey says she still has days where she cannot believe Dave is gone. She is very angry about what happened. She says that his family loved him and he loved them, and there was no reason for this to happen. They just want somebody to come forward and tell them any information he or she may have about the case. In September 1984, Dave's family tried to get him declared legally dead so that they could collect his estate. By that point, the police were no longer actively investigating the case. However, the coroner's office never issued a death certificate because of the lack of physical remains. In March 1986, a probate court declared him legally dead. There is a bitter final footnote to Dave's death. Years after the fact, his family is still waiting to lay him to rest. In 1989, the facility was shut down and his remains, a few bone fragments, are presently in a sealed drum on the closed plant site, too toxic to be buried in the ground.
All right. That's it for those guys. I figured since I hadn't done the cold case stuff lately, a few cold cases wouldn't hurt to throw in here. So let's see here. Also, this was just released. Here, hang on a minute. This just came out like 50 minutes ago about the Lily and Jack situation, guys. I've been following a little bit of what this creator's been putting out too on them, just to see if there's anything new here. From my understanding, based on what this is saying, that she returned to social media at some point, so who knows?
Are still missing, and after searching for hours and hours in the dense woods, the search was called off. Police said they would be searching more specific areas from here on out. This past weekend they searched again, but found no sign of the children. The stepdad has been pretty vocal in the case, speaking out to the media, thanking the searchers, and saying that the main objective is to get the kids back home. The mother, on the other hand, has been completely silent since her first interview. She moved out, blocked Daniel on social media, and has been randomly appearing on Facebook to make changes to her page. She has changed her relationship status to single, added Facebook friends, and even removed all the pictures of Daniel from her page. It's a little questionable when her children are missing, to bother with such tiny things, instead of using the time to post about her children, and get as much exposure as possible for them. Well, she is back on Facebook now, and has reopened her page. Going through it, I've made some interesting observations. Firstly, it is full of photos of Jack and Lily. They are doing various activities, and seem to be well taken care of. They dress neatly, and are smiling and happy in the photos. Something I took note of is that most of the photos were from 2023 and older. Days after Meadow was born, the daughter of Malaya and Daniel, she posted a photo of all 3 kids, and that was the last post that was available for a year. I don't know if she deleted things in between that time period, but for a year, there were no pictures of the kids. Then Christmas of last year, she posted this picture of the 3 kids as her cover photo. The next time Malaya would post, her children were missing. On the 3rd May, she wrote, "I want an Amber Alert for my children. I want my babies home. My children are not shy to strangers and will go with anyone they don't understand. Stranger danger. At this point they may have been taken. Please send an Amber Alert now." She then changed her profile picture to both Lily and Jack. From her Facebook page and all the pictures, she seems like a loving mom who adores her children. I would love to hear Malaya's side of the story. Why the sudden running and blocking Daniel on social media? Why does her family blame him? So many questions and very little answers thus far.
Okay, so hang on here 1 minute. And there it is, conveniently. It says 95 friends. I wonder if she shut down the old one and brought another one, made another one. See, this is all about her kids now. Which is weird to me, because I don't think the other one was like this. These are all her kids' pictures. This is weird to me. It's almost like she's doing this just to try to look like a good mother, for lack of that. I don't know, you guys. Something seems off with this, the way this was put together. There's nothing posted here at all. December, May 2nd is what, that's that right there. She had those posted before they went missing. Okay. See, like I said, I didn't see all of that, but did she have all of this? Like, all of these pictures are all here now. I don't know if they were there before or not. That's the birthday that we've seen the video on. But there's nothing else in here from, like, it's a good point, Raquel. Yeah, good point. Good point. Alicia, let's go back up here. Let's see when this was posted. December 5th of 24. December 11th of 23. December 5th of 23. July 22nd of 23. April 10th of 23. It's weird because I don't know, guys. I don't see anything new, though. You know what I mean? Why? Profile pictures. May 4th. This one's new. Something, I don't know. Something's a little weird with this. I'm just saying. Well, she went in and purposely made herself single. That was one of the things she did immediately after. In that part I get with the kids. Yeah, I just didn't. It doesn't look like she was on Facebook much beforehand, is what I'm saying. And I don't know why she took it down. Why did she take it down? And then why is she putting it back now? That's what I'm questioning. You know what I mean? Nothing else, really. I don't know. I have issues with her. You guys know that. Just something's not right with her, in my opinion. So, May 2nd, 11:03. So she put that statement back up. She took that down once, and then now she put it back up. There's nothing else posted on here about the kids, though, like recently. Today's the 21st. So I would think she'd still be posting those up there. I don't know. No, I agree with you on that one about especially little ones. Yeah. Yeah, there's just something that's not right to me. It never has been. I don't know why. And then let's see here. And Daniels hasn't changed since. He hasn't posted since May 4th. His is the same. is what we saw. I think it was yesterday, maybe. Yeah, that's the same. It could be. It could be SRB, could be. 100%. Makes sense. And that could be too. That could be too, saying that she looks guilty, so on and so forth. So there she put it back up. Makes perfect sense. You guys are making good points. Very good points, guys. I don't know. I'm just uncomfortable with her. So I think anything she does makes me uncomfortable. In turn, I'm going to look at her that way. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It could be nothing. Absolutely nothing. All right. Now, let's see where we're at. Time-wise. Those were his other kids, I thought, Raquel. He's got 2 little ones, too. All right. Yes. Not with her. The only one they have, the baby, the 16 or 18-month-old baby, is from the 2 of them together. That's it. Let's see here. 1 second. All right. It's that time again, guys. Let's see what positivity there is going on out there. Positive people, good situations, good things happening instead of all the negativity. Let's see what there is, because there's plenty of it going on out there. We just don't see it every day. So grab your tissues just in case. And here we go.
Is she so overcome with emotion? It's a custom stuffed animal designed to look exactly like their beloved pet. Close your eyes, hold out your hands. It's a surprise grandchild. Here's someone walking into a surprise 50th birthday party and finding his best friends from Italy there. When you're so good that even your duet partner struggles to keep it together. Another provider of very necessary hydration during an insanely hot day. When your siblings are just the very best people you know. How do you show your appreciation to a street performer without money? Like this. In the world of monkeys, a human with a box of bananas is God. You don't realize how lucky you are until you see the joy of a child who's just received a pair of shoes.
Thank you for joining us, Christina.
Yeah, we just got here in Canada. We got lost.
While one kind human stops to hear their stories, another one brings them something to drink.
You don't want to be here in Denver.
Hey, Belinda.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Yeah, that was nice. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said.
No, okay. Yeah, thank you.
When this little guy met his favorite players, the experience was all a bit too much. We all know that firefighters save lives, but you might not know that those lives aren't exclusively human. The small gift of a flower to a stranger can really transform someone's day. We all know that dogs are pretty amazing creatures, but have you ever seen one offer to push a car? There's something about a surprise puppy that just makes people lose their minds. If you're gonna sing happy birthday to somebody, then do it like you mean it. Another dream car surprise, but this time they managed to get the guy in it before he realized.
Ah, look at the steering wheel.
Paying for someone's groceries is a great way to get a free smile.
No, Merry Christmas. Enjoy. It's all good.
How a simple flower can change a stranger's day. In the social experiment, a guy asks for gas money and then gives them a lot more money in return. In this clip, however, things got real emotional real quick.
Dude, thank you so much. Here, now you can put gas in your car. Take it. No. Here. Look. Listen. No, I know. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course, bro. Thank you. Of course, bro. Be good.
Once again, art manages to bring a bit of happiness into someone's day. This CEO brought in a minimum wage of $70,000 for his employees. A year later, they found a way to show their appreciation.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? No.
These people take all the soap thrown out by hotels and recycle it for people in need.
CEO Sean Siepler started out shaving soap with vegetable peelers in a one-car garage.
Here's another Santa who knows sign language. And this Santa is deaf too, traveling the world to meet children with the same affliction.
For Kevon Woodard, it's a first.
I asked Santa Claus if I could get a dirt bike to see him laugh and make those expressions, but Santa Claus was the best, right?
Remember quarantine? Well, here's a great example of how the human spirit and sense of humor got us all through it.
So sorry about that, guys.
So cute.
Quarantine. You both received the agreement, correct? So I'm so sorry. Let me just lock the door, please. Just hold on. It's no problem. Nice shorts, Josiah. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. It's no problem, Josiah. No problem at all. With the shorts.
When you haven't seen your daughter for 4 years, you certainly don't expect to find her waiting at your table. Here's a great example of human kindness, as an entire highway comes to a standstill to allow a family of ducks to pass. These sisters were unable to see each other for 6 years, and here's the touching moment they reunited. Daddy! No distance is too far when you're running to see Daddy. Everyone's happy to see cake, but even more so when it's delivered by your sailor dad. The fist bump is already a pretty positive gesture, but even more so when there's a gift card included. Can you see true love in an expression? We think so. It's a special day when you find out Mickey and Minnie can talk to you in sign language. Free candy and toys for the children of Ukraine? Who could possibly be more deserving right now? When this skater found a deer stranded on the ice, there was no way he was ever going to just leave it there. Another example of how so little can mean so much.
You guys want donuts?
Surely no one on Earth would ever turn down a donut.
Yes!
To random acts of kindness here. The kids helping this elderly person, and what this guy does to make sure they never change.
Don't stop doing that, you hear me? Don't stop doing
And now, a genius way to get strangers to play with each other. This little girl's brother has cerebral palsy, and watching them play together is good for the soul. When a near accident turns into a display of empathy. Kittens are slightly calmer than puppies, but the moment you receive one is just as exciting. If you have the means to finally pay back your parents, then a dream car is a great way to do it. Once again, those surprise puppies can evoke a very strong reaction. Another human rescue of an unfortunate turtle, this time one that's got itself wrapped up in a net. We hear a lot about sibling rivalry sometimes, but never enough about sibling love. And here's a delivery driver who goes the extra mile to make sure his packages don't get damaged by rain or stolen by porch pirates, going above and beyond the call of duty. After some horrific human beings left their dog in a boiling hot car, he was rescued by some other human beings with a heart and conscience. This guy travels around helping the poor and elderly in his local area. Only there were more people in the world like this. A wildlife rehabber not only took in this orphan gosling, but also managed to find him a new family.
Eventually, while I was out on a run, I found the perfect flock and had to take a chance. But luckily, they welcomed him with open wings.
Hummingbirds are good at floating midair and keeping out of trouble, but sometimes a friendly human is the only one who can help. This homeless man not only saved this dog from a fire, but 24 other animals too. And here's another good Samaritan going out of his way to feed the homeless people in his area.
What's your name, brother? Carlos Michael. Nice meeting you, buddy.
If someone's gonna grab you from behind like this, then it better be your best friend who you haven't seen for years. One more surprise puppy, but this one's in a very festive Christmas hat. This guy was overjoyed to see his family after 10 years, but when he saw his mom, he almost exploded. Cats are famous for getting stuck in some pretty weird places, but this one takes the prize.
Hi, baby.
Yeah.
Hi. Hi. We're your family.
When this man noticed a thirsty dog desperately pawing at some empty bottles, he immediately remedied the situation. The chances of your dog losing consciousness near a man who knows dog CPR is pretty unlikely, but that's what happened here.
All right, come on. That's what's up, y'all saving lives. That's how we do it. That's how we do it.
This blind man had no shortage of kindness surrounding him. An incredible rendition of the U.S. national anthem featuring some even more incredible people. We've already seen how kids can embody the spirit of sportsmanship. Now, look at how this kid in blue creates an unforgettable moment for his friend. Asking someone to marry you is a brave thing to do, but this guy took it to the next level. When the whole family shows mom their appreciation on Valentine's Day. We've seen some people receiving their dream cars. So is the reaction the same when you receive your dream motorcycle? For this dad, yes. Even cats have their favorite fast food outlets. By using a special board and his voice, this kind soul helps a blind child enjoy a soccer match. When this Waffle House employee found himself going through some tough times, this 8-year-old did an amazing thing and raised money to help.
Vontae's just a really nice person, really good guy, super nice to everyone.
This girl's grandma was about to start chemo and thought this would be a good way to show her support. This kid gave his parents the best gift they could ever want for the wedding renewal, the gift of song.
There goes my head shaking because you are the reason.
Fighting like cats and dogs? How about loving? Check out this wholesome reaction by this delivery driver when he noticed the snacks and drinks left out by the homeowners.
Oh my God! You guys are the best. Oh, Capri Suns are my favorite. Yeah.
And we're gonna end with a human rescuing a dog again. This time, a hydrofoil surfer who notices a stranded pooch from an overturned kayak.
All right, guys, there they are. It's out there. 100% it's out there. You gotta love it. It is a real deal stuff. Positivity is a thing, and there's good people and good things happening in the world every day still. And I'm grateful to see that. For sure. Excuse me. Sorry, Alicia. Let's see here. One second. All right, let's see if we can get some laughs going today, y'all, before we get out of here. Make you guys smile a little bit. Oop. Oh, sorry, guys. She said there's no sound. Hang on. I don't know how that happened. Let's try it again. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oops.
Real, no, real, no, real. Go inside.
Annie, are you okay?
Yeah. Oops.
Oh, God. Ow.
Done that before. Nice car. There's Molly.
Oh. You jerk! That was me, oh my god.
Well, that sucks. It's gonna get you.
Oh!
The cats are like, "What the hell you doing, bro?"
Thanks a lot.
Ouch. That hurt. I love it. You almost had it.
Oh god! There's a big step. Oh my god! Is it broken? Good night. You alright? Golly. Get wet.
Jeez, poor kid. Got attacked by the belt out. More. Oh, wow. That sucks. That ball's gone.
Oh, baby. Ah! 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 Oh, my God. Did you get one? Oh, you just came outside at the wrong time. Okay. Oh my God! Can you get it? I can't. Turn. Oh, it did. Oh, not right in the opening.
I did that the other day. Oh my God, are you okay? Oh.
What the hell? Wipe out. Never done that before. Oh, geez. There you go, guys. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys for joining me today again. I'm going to really try to get in here this afternoon to do what I was going to do yesterday. Like I said, depends on what happens if I get into the doctor's when. So Thank you guys again for joining us. I appreciate you very much. Don't forget to love yourselves, love each other. Don't change a thing. You guys are the beautiful people. And I guess what? I will see you all very soon. Bye-bye, y'all. Thank you to the Blue Crew for everything you do. Much love, guys.
Life's a journey, let's make every moment shine. Together we share our hearts so intertwined. Each time you tune in, we're dancing in sync. With every story told, just let your soul think. A little laughter, some love, we're flying high. As we wrap up this episode, it's not goodbye. News on the airwaves, spreading joy and cheer. Thanks for being with us, we'll see you right here. Kick back, take a breath, leave your worries behind. This podcast is magic, a treasure you'll find. With every moment shared, we light up the way. Join us next time for more laughs and play. A little laughter, some love, we're flying high. As we wrap up this episode, it's not goodbye. News on the airwaves, spreading joy and cheer. Thanks for being with us, we'll see you right here. Kick back, take a breath, leave your worries behind. This podcast is magic, a treasure you'll find. With every moment shared, we light up the way. Join us next time for more laughs and play. So hit that subscribe, keep the vibe alive. We're riding this wave and it's set to thrive. With smiles all around, let's seize the day. In this podcast family, worries drift away. A little laughter, some love, we're flying high. As we wrap up this episode, it's not goodbye. News on the airwaves, spreading joy and cheer. Thanks for being with us, we'll see you right here. So gather round friends, it's time to reflect. In this joyful moment, what's next to connect? Let's cherish the laughter, the joy that we spread. Together we'll thrive until our hearts are fed. See you next time with stories anew. Can't wait to share more with all of you. So hit that subscribe, keep the vibe alive. We're riding this wave and it's set to thrive. With smiles all around, let's seize the day. In this podcast family, worries drift away. So hit that subscribe, keep the vibe alive. We're riding this wave and it's set to thrive. With smiles all around, let's seize the day. In this podcast family, worries drift away. So gather round friends, it's time to reflect. In this joyful moment, what's next to connect? Let's cherish the laughter, the joy that we spread. Together we'll thrive until our hearts are fed. See you next time with stories anew. Can't wait to share more with all of you.